Let's see if I can level this out. There we go. All right, hi world. So I just looked in my shrimp tank and I found Hydra. Whoop, hold on. There we go, now it's muted. I don't know why this is not staying level. Hasn't had a problem with that before. Hi Turbofish, welcome to the stream. We might be crooked today. My gimbal doesn't want to keep my phone level. I think the charging cord's heavier than it used to be. Ah, tech problems. Oh jeez. Let me just unplug it. Hopefully we'll have enough battery to last. Hi Phil, welcome. So I got my new shrimp in last Friday. Yeah, Hydra. It's I've never had it in a tank, but I've never had a tank dedicated without like fish in it before. So I have the 1 5-gallon shrimp tank that I set up specifically for the Blue Dreams that I got from Lucas Bretz, and it definitely has little anemone looking things. Hi Nisi, happy Friday to you as well. So I'll have to actually do some research. I've never dealt with them before. I mean, I'll probably just get some micro fish and they'll probably gobble it up and it won't be a problem. Hey Susan, welcome. So yeah, I've heard people talk about it before. I just never even thought of having to deal with it myself. Yeah, I was thinking about that because the other 2 shrimp tanks have some of my baby cories in it, so I could just scoop a baby cory or 2 out and put them in there, and they'll probably gobble it up just like the little worm, little glass worms that have been floating around. You know, they don't hurt the shrimp, so I was never really concerned about them. One thing I have to say about that tank though, the little 5-gallon, is the dwarf aquarium lily is looking super awesome. You know, I got it and I showed it to you guys, what, 3 weeks ago? Well, maybe about a month ago. And it just had some very small leaves. The leaves are big, they're full of color. I've been dosing that tank with a lot of iron just to make sure that the red plant could, you know, have its color. But it's gorgeous. I'm very excited about that plant. So Turbofish says, Hydra typically comes from giving a little bit too much food and light. It's not a huge thing, but cories would do wonders for you. Yeah, so I don't think the little cory fry would really hurt shrimp at all. I guess it's been said, I have no personal experience with it, that cories mouthing baby shrimp could hurt them, but they don't go after them to gobble them up specifically. So Susan says it is 33 degrees and over 3 inches of snow. You lucky, lucky girl. I'm so jealous. You have no idea. And Nisi says it's 37 and raining. Yeah, raining's not as fun. But it does seem like you're backwards. So a student asked me yesterday, because we've had a cold snap here in Las Vegas, and it has actually, we've been getting freeze warnings because it's been getting down to 34 degrees at night, but the high during the day is 56 to 65, you know, like not cold really. And my student asked me yesterday, so, because they're all bundled up in sweaters and they're freezing, and they're like, so do you find this cold? And I was like, nope. Like, I did contend with the fact that I teach a 10 o'clock class, that I brought a light light jacket so I could wear it out to my car because it was, you know, below 40. But it was just like my light raincoat. It wasn't one of my winter coats. And so I'm like, no, it's not cold. And then I told them, yeah, I keep my heater in my house set to 65. And they're like, oh, that's freezing. How can you handle that? And I was like, because it's not cold at 65. I just thought that was funny because they're all South Nevadan wusses. So Susan asks if the fires are around me. The fires are not affecting me in Las Vegas, but my sister and several of my friends have been evacuated from the Fallbrook area. I guess all of Fallbrook and a bunch of Vista is evacuated. So they're staying at a hotel. A family friend that lives there also. Another friend who hasn't checked in. I don't think she's in town. That's probably why. But yeah, a lot of people I know because I grew up in that area, that North County, San Diego area, have been evacuated for the lilac fires. And my parents are directly dealing with the smoke because they're not that far outside of the evacuation area. I'm probably going to call my mom later today and see if I can convince them to come and visit because they both have breathing issues. And I know they're like, oh, we're more comfortable at home, but I really think their health, they'd be better off coming up here for a few days to get out of the smoke. But yeah, nothing, no direct effect for me, semi-direct from family. So yesterday I was trying to get a hold of my sister for most of the day because, you know, we text, but it was like trying to keep, you know, like, are you okay? Have you been evacuated yet? You know, and then she finally said that they got into a hotel and they got out of town. And one reason the evacuation area is so big for that fire specifically is that a lot of that area is hard to get out of. Like there's not a lot of freeway exits. So it's a big town with a lot of little twisty streets, but only one or two ways to get out and evacuate the area. So they evacuate with caution, or more aggressively to be cautious, so that nobody gets stuck, you know, by like, I only have 2 roads to get out of my place and both of them have fire on either side, you know, that sort of thing. You don't want to get trapped in town. So they're out. Hopefully they won't be evacuated too long. Hopefully they get things under control, but I know they're having severe winds, which is being difficult. So definitely concerned for them, but the people are safe. So, I mean, that's our biggest concern. So Phil says Wichita is 39 degrees. See, I'm like missing snow. I haven't set up Christmas decorations yet. You can see my peacock patio decoration because I can't put them outside. My housing development has rules and you can't put yard decorations out. And that's where I'd put the Christmas tree, probably in the front entry, but it's like, it doesn't feel like Christmas. I guess 6 years in the Pacific Northwest, I got spoiled to have like cold weather and snow, and I mean, granted, there's fun, not so fun things to deal with, you know, the black ice and having to try to find parking when half the parking lot's covered in snow and that sort of thing. But I don't know. I miss like being able to pull out the sweaters and the big coats and the hiking shoes. So Turbofish asks if I wonder where the wildlife travels to and if they return, as well as the indirect effect of their evacuation and or return and fail to return. Yeah, so I was, you know, I grew up in San Diego. I was there in the 2007 fires in San Diego County. Like, it was like almost 90% of it burned, and it was major scary. Like, it just, everywhere was burning. And you see a lot of wildlife getting pushed into the urban areas because unfortunately if it's the rules that's on fire usually, and then it spreads to houses because there's, you know, they can't get it under control first. So you see a lot of like the coyotes and the big cats coming more into the, you know, and they tend to be evacuated areas, but into the housing developments, or they go further out, you know, away from and more into the rural areas. It's actually pretty surprising how fast the recovery is from those sort of wildfires. I actually documented in 2007, I did a photo project on it, and it was somewhere I went to photograph all the time. It was this reservoir area, and it was all rural, but there were some houses around it, and all the houses burned and the whole reservoir burned. And then of course the reservoir's water level dropped tremendously because they were pulling water for firefighting. So you got all of this weird remnant. So I went about a couple days once they reopened the area, and there were like huge carp, like 3 feet long carp, like fried crisp on the banks of the river, you know, like blackened and stuff, and dead fish floating in the water because the surface temperature had changed so much. So it was really like tragic, but like then I went back every few days for a couple of months and documented the regrowth, and the regrowth happens pretty fast. You know, within 2 weeks there was green shoots everywhere. Within a month it was hard to see some of the damage. I mean, of course they cleaned some of it out, you know, cut down trees. Hi Joel, good morning, happy Saturday to you. So it was a really interesting photo project. It is the photo project I am the most sad about, because shortly after I finished it, and it had some beautiful work in it, my hard drive crashed and I lost all of those photos. So it is my teaching moment to always back up your photo work on more than one photo drive if it's very important to you. So since we have 8 people watching now, I have 2 quick announcements. First off, we hit 100 subscribers. Woo! We're at 100, and because we've been flirting around that all week. And the second is I want to thank HC Aqua. Jesse, thank you so much for becoming my very first Patreon. You're super cool. I never expected anyone to send me monies, but it's really special to feel that someone thinks that what I'm doing is awesome enough to give me $1. So yay! Thank you so much. That was really special when I logged in to see what the people that I support were up to, because I really do like the community tabs and all that stuff on Patreon. And like I follow Lucas Bretz, and he's one of my, I patronize him. You know, he posts little videos and things he's doing in the fish room that he doesn't post on his channel. So I like to check in there a couple times a week to see what people are up to. So that was really exciting news this morning. It's also, next week's the last week of classes before I get winter break, which I'm so excited about winter break. I mean, lots to do over winter break, but I need a week off from work, and so one more week and then I get a week off. So I'm super thrilled. And hi, Mellow Moogle. You just popped in right in time to hear the big news. So I really want to thank you all for coming out. I've actually found that I just really like these live streams almost more than I like just doing the short videos. I've filmed 2 in the last 2 weeks and I haven't posted them. Partly just sheer out of not having enough time, trying to make a thumbnail, all these things that go into posting just the shorts, and it's just like, oh, well, we'll just talk about it on the live stream on Friday. So last Friday, I know you guys knew I was waiting for my shrimp to come and my snails to come from Flip Aquatics. Jeez, just forgot the name all of a sudden. So I'm kind of jealous, Joel, because you guys get summer. Like I follow some YouTubers that are in the Melbourne area of Australia, and they're like, yeah, on summer break we go to the beach, and New Year's we do that at the beach. And I was like, that's kind of cool. Like, I guess having winter break or Christmas break in summer would be kind of fun. Although I guess that's sort of like living in Vegas, because if it's 56 outside right now, I mean, I could go to the beach. Yeah. Well, I mean, isn't New Zealand, almost all beach? It's like this big, and then it's all coast around there. Isn't that kind of like living on an island? I guess HC Aqua would have the same thing. Yeah, I think, see, I grew up, yeah, it's 80% beach. Yeah, see? I grew up in San Diego, so it's really funny to me that this doesn't feel Christmassy, because it's just like I grew up with never having like cold Christmas. But now that I've had it, it's like, it just feels like any other season. And I'm like, now I'm like, oh yeah. But if I went like on holiday during Christmas to somewhere that was warm and had beaches, I think that would be pretty awesome. Okay, Joel, you're just rubbing it in. Beach is 10-minute walk from your couch. That's like what, 2 blocks, 3 blocks away? That's just fair. So I guess next Christmas I'm coming to Joel's house to enjoy his New Zealand beaches. Oh man, that would be awesome. 8 minutes more than you can be bothered to walk. Well, you gotta save your energy for once you get to the beach and you have to walk through that sand, because it's so much more effort, right? Yeah, Nisi's right. Christmas without snow makes me sad. I guess it would be really weird. I've heard though that sometimes parts of Australia and New Zealand will get like a really freak mid-summer snow. I don't know how true that is or how often that happens. Christmas in London. Do they really like decorate up for that? It just feels like a place that everything should be strewn in twinkly lights. Well, Turbofish, my parents hate it. They grew up in Colorado and Utah, respectively. My mom in Colorado, my dad in Utah. And they hated snow and winter so much, which, I mean, those are pretty harsh, full-on winters, so much that they moved to California when I was 2. And so that's why I think growing up in California, it's something you never had. It's like, I want snow. Like, snow's this like thing that you just wish for. And there was a couple times you go snowboarding or skiing, but you drove to get there. When I think my first winter in the Pacific Northwest, we got some pretty heavy snows, but it was cool because it canceled school. And it was the first time in my whole entire life, and this was grad school, that I got a snow day. Because I always like grew up and all my cousins were getting snow days, and they were getting these holidays like just mid-fall, and yeah, I never got to experience a snow day. So to me, that was like awesome. I heard Chicago is pretty rough for winter, like because of the wind chill off the lake and like the freezing ice. Yeah, I could see like the Midwest, it wouldn't be as exciting. I I do have to say, when I went in the Pacific Northwest, I lived in a fairly temperate place where we got 4 seasons, but we didn't get any like ridiculously harsh. Like, I don't think I could handle, and I would probably soon hate winter if I had to shovel feet of snow off my car every day. I mean, it was more like, oh, there's an inch, or if I didn't go out over the weekend, I'd have a couple inches of snow, like, to take off. And I think that's where, like, the tolerance would last. So I like that snow that's just pleasant amount of snow. Cold, just pleasant. Like, I lived on this, in this rural area for 1 year when I was super broke, right after grad school. And it was this old farmhouse, and all we had was a pellet stove, and we had days that were negative like 10, negative 15, which I know, like, compared to Nisi, probably gets a lot colder. But for me, that was, you know, like, it's bracing. You walk out and you literally feel the air in your lungs like freeze. And it wasn't as fun. And like, the driveway iced over completely, so you couldn't drive on it. And you drive up and the car would slide back. So there's definitely, yeah. I just think right now I'm missing it because I'm not super happy in Vegas. I mean, things are going okay right now, but I miss all my friends. I miss the things I would be doing. I miss going up into the mountains and photographing in the snow. So I'm sentimentally depressed about winter right now. Yeah. I mean, Joel says he gets about 2 to 6 months of in new cities, and I think it's that. And then, you know, Turbo Fisher your dad's driveway is heated. Oh my God, that's awesome. Oh. Yeah, I've always felt like it takes me about 3 years to really settle in a place, like where I feel like, oh yeah, this is my home. And there's definitely in the first few months of the miss of missing your friends and that. And unfortunately, the last time I moved, I was only like 4 or 5 hours from the old friends, so I could make a few trips and visit. And it wasn't all the time, but it was doable. Yeah, now it's, you know, it's a 17-hour drive if I wanted to visit, or a flight and expense. So, you know, my bestie up there, I'm just missing the heck out of her, and, you know, my other girlfriends up there. So, anyway, depressing. And then working in a school is hard because you don't really work with your coworkers, like you don't see them much, and you work with your students, which is fine, except our school policy is you're not allowed to socialize with your students outside of school, like outside of the classroom, which is kind of weird because it's not like I'm gonna give favoritism. I'm like, if we hung out and went photographing on a weekend outside of class, it's not like I would then like give you a better grade. And if anything, I would say I've judged my friends harder because I know if they're putting their full effort into it because I know them better. So I'm behind on chat now. So I don't want to be quiet, but I'm trying to catch up here. So Nisi's asking if HC has friends that moved her way. Well, I could see why people from Alaska would want to move to Hawaii, but man, that sounds like a huge cost jump, because I'm assuming Hawaii is pretty gosh darn expensive. So Turbofish says the heated driveway wasn't hard to do. You ran copper wire through the heat condensing pad box sensor relay thingy. Yeah, I have friends that live in the Midwest and they have the like the heated floors in their house, and it's like, I don't know if it's water or something that's ran through it. And it sounds really cool, and it's supposedly like a lot more cost effective than heating like the ambient air as well. I mean, that's the only thing I complain about. So I keep my house at 65, and to me that's fine, but I have to wear like socks or slippers because I have tile floor downstairs. Upstairs is fine because it's carpet, but downstairs it's this like tile floor, and it just sucks the heat right through your feet, and like it makes your bones ache. As I talk like an old person. My bones are aching from the cold. But it's like at the same time, like, I like it at 65 in the house because I can put on a sweater, or I can like sit on my couch and have a blanket bundled around me. Yeah, I could warm it to 70 and I wouldn't want to put on anything more than a, tank top and like lounge pants, but why? But it does throw me off because I get up and I dress for like 65 or like the 55 degrees that it's outside, and then I get to school and the classroom's like at 80, and I'm just like, oh my god, I'm dying. Hi Priscilla. Sorry, I was trying to figure out what Joel was saying. I feel like I recognize some of those words from one of those Christmas songs. Oh, she wants me to try to read it. Okay. Aloha mela kula chala wila wula wula wala Hawaii. I think some of those words weren't real. But I could be wrong. So Nisi, if you don't mind me asking, which part of Alaska do you live in? Because obviously there's quite a lot of it. It's a big state. I had a friend that worked in Ketchikan for a couple of summers, and I know that's not actually too much different than really northern Seattle weather. It does get a little bit colder, but it's not that much farther north. You live in Anchorage, okay. You probably live in some little tiny small town that nobody would know what it was called, so Anchorage works as a general location. But yeah, feel free to message me. If you message me your address, I'll send you a Christmas card. They're sitting here waiting for me to send them out. I got them like literally at the beginning of November, and then I was like, no, if I do them now, everyone will get them before Thanksgiving. And then now I'm like, oh shoot, I should send these before it's gonna be New Year's. Everyone gets them. See, that's exactly what I was talking. Priscilla says it's 55 here in Colorado, and it's supposed to be winter. That's shorts weather, and that's exactly how I feel. It's 50, 55, 60 here, and everyone's like bundled up, and I'm like, but it's shorts weather. Alaska's a small state. I think it's like the same size as the continental U.S., isn't it? But it's a small population per landmass for sure. Priscilla, the only reason I remembered Christmas cards is because I go to Shutterfly, and they do those promos where they send you coupons for free things, right? And so they send a coupon for free cards. So this is what my Christmas card looks like. It's got the kitties and the birdie and me. A little bit of me. Oh, me's on the back, I guess. I put myself on the back. But they send out those free, like, you get 10 free and all you have to do is pay the shipping or whatever. So I did one of those back in November, and that's the only reason I have them, because normally I forget, and then everyone gets an email card, because I like doing the Photoshop stuff and like putting the photos together. The follow through. Like one year I made a Valentine's card and I had the whole thing done, and then the next year I got it printed, and then the following year I finally mailed it. So it was a 3-year endeavor to send my friends Valentine's Day cards. Oh geez, Nisi. Well, I promise I'm not, well, I'm weird, but only in the, like, I keep fish and lots of animals weird. Not in the psycho weirdness. Yeah, I had friends that moved up to Alaska when I was a kid. Of course, then it was pre-internet and we just pen palled. So it's an odd state. I have a student right now that grew up there, and he's kind of an odd bird. Anyway, shrimp, yes, turbo. So I got my red shrimp and my orange Neocaridina shrimp, and I wasn't thrilled with the condition they came in. I did an unboxing, but I don't know if I want to post it. It's like, I don't want to harsh on part of the fish fam, but at the same time, like, I did not have a good experience. Most of the shrimp came in okay. There was a few casualties. There was no heat pack in the box, which really threw me off since, you know, shipping in winter. But they did come in, and I got their temperature up to 68, which is where the tank temps were, and I added them. And I've had a few losses in both groups. So, you know, not bad, but not the experience I had at L.R. Brett's. Like, I would, if I was to recommend a seller, I know it's harder to wait for L.R. Brett's because he doesn't post fish or shrimp a whole lot, but I would grab his 9 times out of 10. If I hadn't already ordered these shrimp from Flip Aquatics, when L.R. Brett's finally did put the Blue Dreams up, he also put some of his cherries and some of his oranges and a few other colors. If I hadn't already ordered, I would have ordered from him and increased that order size. That said, none of my snails made it. Well, 1 of the 6 snails made it. Okay, so not none. 1 of 6 snails made it. And unfortunately, having 5 dead snails in a box makes it smell atrocious. So yeah, I'm you know, I was feeling the same way, Turbofish. So one of the things with getting the shrimp, you know, the imported shrimp, yeah, Nisi, it really does literally stink. It is like vomit-inducing smell when you open a thing with dead shrimp or dead snails. And then I think it's caused an issue in my aquarium that I put them in, because now I've had a few fish casualties. So, because, you know, like some of them were like, well, they might be alive, they just might be like really like hibernating, you need to let them sit for a little while. And yeah, they definitely weren't alive, and so they've caused like ammonia spikes in a tank, and some of my shrimp, my fish that those went in with aren't doing well because of it. So yeah, it was kind of a disaster. No, the snails did not come in water. They were individually wrapped in wet paper towel, and then they were put into a little, well, I would say a container, but they're literally the urine cups that when you go to the doctor and they have a urine sample. So I guess they're getting them through medical supply, probably from his wife's work. So yeah, they're in a cup, wrapped in paper towels, so they couldn't move. They were definitely like just moist and that, but they were so cold. I mean, it was cold here, air quotes, and they came in the evening, and I got them straight from the postman, and it was 55 degrees outside. I opened the box, and there's no heat pack. And now they're coming from the Midwest, which is even colder. So I'm like, why wouldn't these have shipped with the heat pack? I mean, that I don't understand why they wouldn't have put a heat pack in there. So then I had to get them up to room temperature. So they sat even longer, and the yellow Caridinus, the bag, the water was really gross because there had been a few casualties, and then that caused ammonia spikes. So the water just looked disgusting. I was like, I want to get them out, but the tank they're going into is 70 degrees, and they're at like 55. So that was tough. But yeah, I really think the lack of the heat pack is what caused the issues. I mean, I think the shrimp were probably okay, but I don't think snails really like it quite that cold. Because I mean, the shrimp can obviously go down a little lower. The casualties in the yellow or the orange shrimp is what I kind of worried that is causing some of the die off there. But I got 20 of them, so losing a couple isn't as big of a deal. And then the reds, and I forget what they're called, the name of them. The Bloody Mary reds. They're the ones where their body tissue is red and their shell is clear, not like the cherry shrimp. I've lost a couple of them, and I can tell that because I see the little pond snails munching on half a shrimp, and I don't think the pond snails take down perfectly healthy shrimp. And yeah, I know, Priscilla, I need to email them, because one of the things that because I mean, this was a whole ordeal, right? It shipped and the address was wrong, so then it took like 2 weeks to get back, and then they got it back and they said there was a couple losses and the snails were all gone, and so then they're replacing the snails and reshipping it. But oh, the Bloody Marys were in quarantine still, the new batch. Would I want to wait a week? And that was right at Thanksgiving, so I said yes, ship it the week after Thanksgiving. So like literally I'd ordered these shrimp over a month by the time I got them. And so that was just like one of the things. It's like, I'm sure 90% of the time that everyone has great experiences. It's just like, I'm the 1%. I have the shitty odds. 1% of the time I will get it. Yeah, the Bloody Marys look amazing. I'm really excited. They're in the 5-gallon low boy. Is that what we're calling it? And they look really good. I noticed one loss. The cool thing with them was because there's a bigger range of ages, there were literal tiny bitty fry in the bags. I don't think they were counted as like the 10 or the 20 that I was ordering, although I didn't like sit there and head count them. Once I got them to temperature, I wanted to get them out of the bags because they're in those breather bags, which make it harder. You can't float them in the water. So I had to just kind of like set them near the tanks and like let them come up to room temperature and then put them in. But I have some, full-grown adult, saddled females. So I'm hoping that will reproduce the generations a little faster. The Blue Dreams, I haven't had any losses from Ellerbretts. They're beautiful, absolutely gorgeous, but they all came in really tiny, like sub-adult. So it's going to be even longer before they start reproducing. But I mean, I guess shrimp is like a test in patience, right? Yeah, I figured that. I mean, literally, like I was looking, so I dumped the bag out in a bowl to catch out the individual shrimp instead of like pouring them through a net. Because for some reason I couldn't find my brine shrimp net, because that would have been the proper net to pour them into. There were literally, it was like, you could barely see, it looked like 2 little dark dust specks, but it was like their little eyes, and then they'd move around. I mean, they were just like, they had to have been like freshly hatched. Like, I think brine shrimp might be bigger than those little shrimplets. So, yeah, I mean, I think the shrimp came fine. The snail issue, at this point, like, they sent me a bill for the balance, the shipping of reshipping the order, which I was like, okay, whatever. But then all the snails didn't make it, and I'm like, maybe we should just call this even and give it up. Because I don't know, like, should I have them reship snails again? Are they even gonna offer that? Because this is the second time they've shipped it. So yeah, I just need to email them, but it's been a busy week. And like I said, I unboxed it and it was like, oh, there's no heat pack. Oh, these things are freezing. Oh, these are all dead. Like, I'm not sure I want to post that as like a, ooh, unboxing my new shrimp order, where like my unboxing for LR Brett's was like, oh, there's a good heat pack, it's still warm, oh, the shrimp look great, you know, like that's the kind of like review you want to post, because I don't want to harsh on the company. Like, I think probably a heat pack would have solved a lot of the problems, but at the same time, I don't want to be like I don't want to leave a bad review, you know. Most of the shrimp made it. I mean, I think some losses are normal, like shrimp are just sensitive, and then shipping without a heat pack and having this huge swing in temperatures, you know, because I'm on the warm side of like what they travel through. Like, if they go by air in an unheated cabin, like the bags could have frozen and then thawed back out in the waiting to get, you know, brought to my door. I ordered golden mysteries and blues, but yeah, if you want to send me some golden mysteries, I would take them, because I want some mystery snails. I actually, like, you can probably hear it. It's the Pearly Ocellatus tank. I've kept the water dropped like this because I've been keeping it that way, so it runs a little louder. But I want to breed the mystery snails in that tank, so that they can have room to do their clutches and everything, and it's sealed up fairly tight so that they shouldn't be able to escape out the back. Ooh, blacks and purples. I kind of want to do like what Miss Jinx has, where she has just all the different colors, and then they interbreed, because then they make all the colors, right? So if you have like a black based one and then you have a white based one, they'll make a bunch of different varieties. Because the way I got mystery snails the last time was someone actually just mailed me a clutch, and I thought that was really interesting. Back in back in the 90s in fish keeping, you know, you'd go on a forum, and then they'd take like a damp sponge, like a kitchen sponge, and then they'd put the clutch on it, and then they just put some like damp material around it, and then it just in like a Tupperware, and then they'd mail that. So HG Aqua says, I had 4 golden mystery snails, now all gone, don't know why, did I need a cover? They can, like, if you don't keep the water level low enough, they can crawl out looking for a place to lay their clutches of eggs. And so if you keep your water too close to the top, they'll escape. Because I was thinking of putting them in with the shrimp tanks, but 2 out of the 3 don't have lids, and I was like, nope, that won't work, because they'll just climb off into the kitchen. So, oh, I would take you up on that, Priscilla. If I got some of your purples and blacks and some of Nisi's albinos, I'd be set. And I'll totally like PayPal you the shipping or whatever you need. Yeah, HC Aqua, the lid is helpful. I mean, that doesn't 100% stop them, because, you know, even the best tight-fitting lid always has a way out. I learned that when I had saltwater. I had, after I did my reef, I did fish only with live rock, because I decided to keep a lot of the wrasses that you can't keep in with coral because they'll just eat it. And the wrasses, man, there would be a like opening like this big for like the heater cord to go through or something, and man, they would somehow jump out of there. I think the funniest and sad experience that I ever had was I couldn't find one of my gobies for ages and ages, and then one day I pulled open the tester drawer, like I'd had a bookcase next to it, and I pulled open the third drawer that was where I kept all the testing kit to do like my weekly tests, and there's the goby fish chip. He just jumped in there and then dried out. So, you know, it's tough. I had that happen with my Siamese algae eaters. You know, the 75, it has the glass lid, and then I use the craft mesh in the back to fit custom cut around the piping, and I'd still find one on the floor. And of course my cat would bring them to me like, Mom, it fell out of the tank. And I'd be like, well, it's dead now. I can't put it back in. Although ironically, she would just bring them to me. She wouldn't chew on them, she wouldn't eat them. She just brought me the fish that came out of the tank. She's like, my fishy jumped out. Fix it, Mommy. Well, that's what's funny, Joel. That saltwater tank was in my bedroom. You think I would have like, smells like rotting fish in here. Nope. I just completely just dried out. It looked like you'd put it through like one of those dehydrators. It was just a dried fish chip. I'm sure the cat I had at that time would have ate that, but Lavender doesn't really. She's actually allergic to fish. Like eating it, like we can't have any fish in her food. She gets really sick. So it's actually good she doesn't eat if one commits suicide. But like, I don't know, ages ago, because it was back at the other house, one of the Siamese algae eaters jumped out, and it's like, I mean, it's the size of a hot dog, like literally, but maybe thicker around, more bratwurst in dimension. And like, I'm like, I don't know why, like, I can stick my hands in the tank, I can handle fish when I'm cooking, but when it's like a pet fish that's dead, I'm like, I don't want to touch it, ew. So like, I'm like trying to scoop it up with a net, but it won't go in the net because I only have 4-inch nets, and it's like I had to use like 2 4-inch nets to get it, and then I had to walk it out to the trash can because no way you could flush that. Wouldn't fit down the toilet. Not that you really should flush your fish, but I think we all have. Fish sandwich. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of want to order in some more Siamese algae eaters, or see if I can find some locally, because of this Blackbeard algae. I've been trying the whole triple dosing or quadruple dosing of XL and stuff, but it's still spreading. And that light is set on a 24/7 system, and I've never had a problem with algae in it before, so it's like I don't want to just cut back. Like, I could turn it to non 24/7 and put it on a timer, but it's not really gonna fix the problem. I think I need an army of Amano shrimp. But I think I'd mentioned this last week. It's like, it's not so much that I wouldn't mind getting Siamese algae eaters again, because they do a great job with any algae control or whatever. It's that then they're the only big fish in the tank other than the plecos, which, you know, never leave the bottom. It was fun that my Siamese algae eaters schooled with the rainbows. Maybe I'll just have to get rainbows and Siamese algae eaters again. I still haven't decided what I want to do with that tank, stock-wise, other than it has 1 billion baby cories in it now. It's really fun. I put food in it. They're kind of out now because I dump in 2 different types of sinking pellets. I do the Pleco pellets from the Fluval bug bite line, and then I put in the algae wafers from New Life Spectrum. And so I put like a tablespoon of both of those in, and you just have this horde of little, you know, 1/2 inch baby Corys swarming all over eating, and then the few adults that are in there. So it's fun to watch them eat, and they demolish all of that food. I probably should feed more. And I need to put a zucchini in there. The plecos need a zucchini pretty soon. I literally bought a zucchini before Thanksgiving to put in the tank for while I was out of town as a, like, you know, holiday feeder sort of thing. And then I got back and I'm like, how did I forget to put that in the tank? Terrible fish mother. Part of that was like I was sick and I was like, am I going to my parents? Am I not going to my parents for Thanksgiving? And then I woke up and I'm like, yes, I want to go. And then left within an hour or so. So yeah, one of the reasons I do want to get snails is, one, I think they're cool and they're fun and they are a helpful algae grazer as well. I'd like to get, you know, I have ram's horns and pond snails in just about every tank. And so I'd like to get some mystery snails going in most of the tanks as well. But my dream fish, someday, I have to get them ready for it. And I think that's what Priscilla uses hers for food for the puffers. And you know, it's not anytime soon, but it doesn't hurt to have a nice collection of them. The last time I tried to get mystery snails was like 5 years ago, and I got them from like Petco, and they had leeches, and luckily they were still in quarantine when I was using them in a green water tank for Daphnia culture, but like it was really gross to have leeches in there, so I ended up like throwing the whole culture out. I was like, oh, this is disgusting. So it's why I want to get snails from a reputable place. That's why I was like, I'm willing to pay for them. I just want to get good ones. So hopefully I'll get some of those, and that'll be one step closer to someday getting a pufferfish. I'm kind of torn. I was looking at kind of like those Congo, but they're spendy, but they kind of stay smaller, and they supposedly are community kind of friendly. Although then I was thinking like I could always do a brackish tank. It'd actually be kind of interesting to do like, well, not that you could do ghost shrimp and a puffer, because that very counterintuitive, but it would be kind of interesting to raise some of the brackish shrimps. Oh yes, tax stuff is coming up. Pea puffers, that would be a good way to get rid of leeches. You know, I mean, I had a friend in Yakima who raised fish, and he's who I got inherited the pearl ocellatus off of. And he had all these really fancy killifish, and he'd have leeches in the tank, and he's like, they don't bother the fish. It's really not an issue. And then if you had bigger fish, because he had like some of the killies that only get like an inch, this big. How big does that look? About an inch and a quarter. Like there's some really smaller varieties, really beautiful killifish. And he, you know, he's like, if they get in the tank with the bigger fish just eat them. So like the rainbow fish will eat them. Yeah, I think the leeches, they're kind of like the hydra, like they only really bother the shrimp, or in that case even the shrimplets, right? So Nisi asks Priscilla directly, how do you know when a pea puffer is healthy when picking out at the store? Asking for a friend. So from what I've done research-wise, and Priscilla can follow up here too, you're looking for them to have a bit of a belly, if possible. They shouldn't look emaciated. And of course that helps if you can tell what emaciated fish looks like. I mean, that's one reason puffers aren't really good beginner fish. But you know, if they look beat up, if they look like they've been wedged in a corner too much, they're probably not doing real well. Yeah, and then sunken bellens can, like Priscilla said, often mean they have parasites. And of course, I mean, I think we all know from Corey, just assume any puffer you're getting probably has some sort of internal parasite that you need to treat for, and you want to treat a couple of times for them. So, you know, it's best if they're getting it to get the medication ahead of time, so they're not like, oh no, my fish aren't doing well, and now I need to find medicine in the scramble. Get that all in line before you get the fish. But yeah, a lot of times I've seen pea puffers in stores and they just look like little skeletons with fins and big giant eyes, and it's really sad. So Priscilla says General Cure, Prazipro, and Fenbendazole at least 2 times, best 3 times in a 6-month period to be on the safe side, yeah. And if you're going to add to an existing colony, like say you have lost a puffer and you want to bump up your numbers, you're going to want to definitely quarantine them separate. I mean, I guess you could do your initial short quarantine and then treat the whole tank, but just realize that any dewormer is going to be stressful on the other fish as well. Oh yeah, live food is a good recommendation. Maybe your friend. Is your friend happen to be related to you, Nisi? It's one reason why I've been hesitant to get any new fish, because I don't have a quarantine set up right now. Oh, you know, that's a good idea, Priscilla. I didn't even think about it, but yeah, it doesn't hurt to treat the snails with General Cure. I think some of those other things could be detrimental to snails, like the fenbendazole. Oh, you know, I think I've treated that without a snail crash. Prazipro could go either way, because it can be pretty harsh. But yeah, treating the snails. Have you? Priscilla, have you, I know you buy live blackworms, but do you ever grow your own? Like actually get a culture going instead of just buying them and feeding them like out of the fridge, but actually set up a tank to produce them so you're getting a cleaner stock? I knew... So you have a Rubbermaid tub full of hundreds of ram's horn snails. I have a tank full of, I have 3 tanks full of hundreds of ram's horn snails, and a few thousand pond snails. It's actually funny because that tank hardly had any snails in it, the 75, and then I was like, I want to boost the numbers, so then I purposely started overfeeding a little. Prilla says no, she doesn't have a culture, but she needs to get one. You have crayfish. Ooh, crayfish. I wonder if I can get crayfish here. They're illegal in Washington, but I don't know about here. Yeah, HC Aqua, I don't think a lot of pet stores sell live blackworms. I think Aquarium Co-op is one of the few that I ever found that sold them in store. Of course, he doesn't sell them by mail. There is a place in California, it's like livefoods.com or something, where you can order them from, and that's where they do most of the producing. I think that is literally where most hobbyists get theirs from, or if their local store has them, they've gotten them from there. But they can bring in some stuff, so you do need to make sure you know how to clean them, and if you're just feeding them from the fridge, you just know what to pull out, because they can have dragonfly larvae, and which, I mean, if you have big fish, that's not a problem, but if you have fish that aren't going to eat that, you could then have something that will consume small fish and shrimp and babies and stuff. So you just have to be careful. And then a lot of times they'll have leeches in them as well. So again, if you have something that'll eat that, it's not a huge deal, but they could also bring in some diseases. I had a friend that used to raise or buy them in bulk and bring them in because she raised and bred betta fish, and then she went to just strictly frozen bloodworms because brought in a horrible, nasty disease and wiped out a whole bunch of her breeding stock. So she just was like, I'm swearing them off completely. I'll have to check Priscilla. So Priscilla says if they're legal here, she can send me some, and she has the self-cloning. And those are the ones I'm not sure if they're going to be legal, because I'm pretty sure I can get just regular ones, but I'm not sure about the self-cloning. So Melamugul, blackworms, they're aquatic worm, and you either set up like a 10-gallon tank with like a thin layer of gravel, because they kind of go in the substrate. They need something to cling on to. I actually saw someone do it. It was that shelf liner mesh that you can get. It's like the little squares that are hooked together, but there's holes in it, and they suction cupped it to the bottom, and they raised them with that, so it was a little cleaner than the gravel. And then you need a airstone slash sponge filter to keep the tank cycled, and you just feed them fish food, so it's not, you know, that big of a deal. So I mean, I don't think blackworms are hard to reproduce. It's just that they're not an attractive tank, and you're dedicating like a 10-gallon tank or container to that process. Microworms are legit the easiest live food on the planet to keep going. I neglect mine terribly, and I still keep them going. You know, what's nice is when you need them, you create a couple of fresh cultures and you'll get tons, and if you're using them all the time, they just keep reproducing. If you don't feed them all the time, they'll get a little overpopulated and the culture can sour a little, and that just slows down their reproduction. And you know, every 3 months I take out a teaspoon, dump all the others, and remake my cultures. So Nisi says Aquabid won't sell self-cloning catfish in Nevada, so they're probably illegal here. But never trust the internet. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. So Priscilla says her Fahaka puffer won't eat or even look at worms. What about like earthworms, like bigger ones, or like night crawler type things where they're a little bit bigger? Because I could see like a bigger puffer not really looking at blackworms so much. But man, my rainbows loved blackworms. They went gaga over them. Yeah, HC Aqua, I can see that. Like I kind of went through that for a while. Like, I want every type of live food I can have. And I would like to get the white worms going again. Those all the fish really love. They're not an aquatic worm, but they're not bad. If you go on vacation, they're one of the ones that doesn't handle you not being there every day to take care of them. I mean, I do think that is one reason, like, the pea puffers do have their advantages, because usually you can get them on bloodworms, frozen bloodworms, and they don't, you know, you don't have to worry about their teeth or anything, and they're small enough to keep in a small tank and that sort of thing. I mean, there's definitely some benefits to them. But honestly, like, I really like the big puffers, or the bigger puffers, because it just intensifies that personality. Does your Bahaka get along with other critters in his tank at all, like fish and stuff? Or is he like one of the ones that needs to be in a tank all by himself? Sounds like if he won't eat a worm, he probably would be fine with a few fish around him. He's like, I like my snails, and I like my crawfish, and that's it. Oh, he even goes after you? No. I mean, I do have to say, like, you know, seeing Corey's, his Maboos, it's like, that's just like the idea of being able to have this big, gorgeous fish in with a bunch of little fish. And, you know, Steenfot has his in with his rainbows and that. I was just like, oh, that'd be cool to have, you know, because I tend to only have fish I never see. It would be nice to like actually have a fish that was like out all the time and large. Because I was even thinking that with the shrimps. Like I'll stare in the tank of my 10-gallon with it's heavily planted, and it's got about 20 orange shrimp in there, and I'm like, I don't see any, and then all of a sudden I'll see like 3 or 4. Oh, he's big enough that he could even chop your finger off if I, yeah. I had a maroon clownfish that was, a good 6 inches. She was huge. She was older. She was a retired breeding stock from a local breeder that bred clownfish. And so she was like 10 years old when I got her, and she was mean. Her male was cute because the male stays small and the female gets really big with the maroons. And gold striped maroons, beautiful striping on both the male and the female. And you put your hand in the tank and she was gonna go after you, and she'd take a chunk of skin out. So like it was always like one hand had the tongs and you're fighting the maroon clown with the tongs while your other hand's doing the thing in the tank. Oh man, he sounds like a hoot, Priscilla. Well, good luck, Mello. Hope best on the interview. Hopefully it's the perfect job for you. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I still want one, but for the longest time I just wanted an Oscar because they're like big giant puppy dogs. And it was a want for a really long time, just getting one of the big, super like outgoing fish. Because I mean, Oscars aren't exactly the best, like the most friendly either. Although I think Joel, he says his lives with all his supposable snacks. So sometimes they don't eat everything in their tank. Sometimes they do. And I think, I mean, there's a lot of fish out there, you know. I mean, I think you get outside of the tetras and the you know, the cories and the, you know, some of the, like the schooling fish that you kind of have predictable attitudes, like they don't have individual personalities. And you definitely have, you know, personality to deal with, you know, like I've had really good luck. I've had betas with shrimp. I have had betas with tetras of all sizes. Never had a problem. But then I know there are betas out there that don't get along with anything. You know, I think Miss Jinx just put her, Rachel just put her Sid Fishes in with a bunch of Amana shrimp, which generally, if you think of any shrimp, Amana shrimp are pretty big, and he like devoured them all. So, you know, it's obviously an individual personality. But I just always like, I had a lot of friends that had Oscars on the forums, and they were like, they're puppy dogs, you play with them, you know, like you can play fetch with them, like they'll bring a ping pong ball back to you, and you know, some of the annoying behavior, but it's also the fun behavior is they never leave their aquascape alone. So the computer is not behaving, huh? HC Aqua? Okay. Well, we'll still be here when you are done rebooting. So, you know, I think it's like, I want to get a big personality fish. And I'm just trying to figure out if there's one that I could get that would fit into the 75 with how it is currently stocked. And I know they say, like, you know, don't, yeah, see, Joel, you like as you said, doesn't yours isn't eating his convicts and his guppies and such that you've put in there for him. He's like, fish are friends, not food. When I just like, I don't know if that's like the fish that I want like particularly. Like, I think now I've moved on to wanting that puffer, my dream fish. It would be cool if I could get something that would work with the 75 with the cories and the plecos and the live plants and the tetras. I mean, I probably could get a baby Maboo and it would probably be fine in there until it outgrew it, and then I'd need to upgrade. But I don't know if I want to go bigger than a 75 until I have a house. So it's kind of like, you know, that's maybe not an option for now. And then it's like, well, I could put a Grommy in there, like one of the giant or bigger Grommies. They might work out. I could do angels, but angels could be a personality issue where they could decide the Cory, or not the Cories, but the Cardinal Tetras were all lunch. Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. I was like, I think the tank could work with like either a school of Amazons or a spotted Congo. I really do like how the spotted Congos look. And you know, a fish that I'm gonna buy, like, honestly, like, I think they're usually about 150. I mean, 150 is a lot for a fish. It's a lot for a freshwater fish. But at the same time, if it's going to live for 10 plus years, it's not that much. I mean, I go out and I buy $150 in makeup. It only lasts a year. Supposedly that's the expiration date, right? So, is it really that big of a deal? Yeah, it's finding a spotted Congo that I think is the problem, because I know they're tough to come in. And I've heard, I think it was Cory's last his puffer talk that he posted on his channel. He was saying that it's speculated that the Congo puffers would actually be a social fish. It's just most people don't have the money or the availability of the Congo puffers to get a group of them to house them in groups. Because I believe that was the one he was talking about that they figure is actually like the Amazon in that puffer in that way. I think the Amazon puffers are really cute too. But I think the Congo puffers, like the spots, because they look kind of like the green spotted puffer, and there's a couple that look very similar. I'm a little bit more drawn to them, and they're more of that rounded body where the Amazon puffers are a little bit longer and skinnier. I don't know, just aesthetically I like them better. Yeah, well, the Congo. Yeah, there's a lot of issues there right now. So avocado puffers look cool too. Yeah, they're one, I think though, that they're not likely to get along with anything. And I don't think I'd want to get, I mean, granted you can keep them in like a 20 gallon, but like the hairy puffers where like they literally just sit there and do nothing. This is a very expensive potato. It sometimes eats the food I put in its tank. Yeah, HC Aqua, like I literally, like when I was in grad school, I was really tempted to get an Oscar because they come in some really beautiful color patterns. Like there's purple and there's red and there's albino, and I mean they come in so many different varieties. Of course, then I'm like, I want one of each of them, and they don't tend to do that well in that big of a group unless you have, you know, a few thousand gallons of aquarium. But they do. They have really interesting patterns and, you know, their little personalities. And you see them in the pet store and they're like 1.5 inches long and they're super cute and you're just like, I want one. And then, yeah, unfortunately, they grow pretty quick to full size. You know, if they were more like the Lake Tanganyika fish or rainbow fish where they grew really slow and you had the time to like upgrade them to 120 gallon, it'd be easier. But again, I'm not the kind of person that can like get a fish and then just return it when it's too big for the tank. Yeah, I bet, Joel. I bet that's really fun to watch when they're little and they're just bouncing all over. I remember going to the fish store once and seeing a baby Jack Dempsey, and they're just amazing. They are just like the shiniest little jewel, greens and purples and magentas, and they just look like a box of gems. And then you look at what a Jack Dempsey looks like full grown and you're like, eh. Like once they grow out of the juvenile state, they're not that attractive of a fish. And they're mean as all get out. That's why they sell them when they're this big instead of waiting till they're full size. But yeah, maybe someday. I need to find a partner in crime in fish keeping to help with the obsession and expenses. Although I don't know if you get two crazy fish keepers in the same household if you'll ever have any money left over. Like I do really like seeing like the fish tours where it's like, well, this is my fish room and this is my wife's fish room. And sometimes we cross species, but mostly like we keep different things in different spaces. Just imagine that. I keep going like, well, do I really need to park in the garage? Of course, then I can't afford to air condition the garage. But I don't know. I like my tanks. I wish I could have more, but I don't really have time for more at this moment. Tomorrow or later today is water change day for everyone. I've been doing a little bit more water changes on the shrimp tanks, not because the parameters are off or anything, just because two of them don't have lids, the evaporation is worse, and I don't want to just top off, so I always pull a little water before I top off. But I'm thinking of reworking the 5 gallon and moving the filtration around. I got the new light for it that I haven't put on yet, which might help with the algae issue. It's funny because it's the same light that was on it when I had it as a beta tank and I never had an algae issue in there. But obviously Nevada water is just great at growing algae. I was wondering if I put like a DI filter and not the RO. I mean, RO would probably be the best and like actually mix like 50-50 or something and cut down the dilution by half, but just like the DI where it filters out some of it might help. So HC says, I'm going through a stage where I want to breed everything, but then every tank turns into a display tank. Yeah, I mean, I really enjoy breeding the fish that I have, and but I don't really like the look of like just the breeding racks where like, it's got a big clump of moss or algae in it and I just moving the fish around because it's easy to catch them out of. I do like, I mean, honestly, I think my favorite thing about the hobby is plants. So like my tanks are always about aquascape first and fish And breeding the fish is something I really enjoy. Like I love breeding the cories, and I'm enjoying raising my rainbow fish fry, although my God, could they grow any slower? They're now with tail about an inch long, without tail about 3/4 of an inch long. But it's like, my goodness, they're so tiny still. I've been wondering, because they're in the 10-gallon, if I should try to catch them out. If putting them in the 75, maybe they'd grow faster because there's more swimming room and that tank gets fed a little bit heavier. Because I don't want to overfeed the 10-gallon because it's just about 20 cory babies and then the 2 and then some shrimp now. Nisi says she's from the plastic plant and decor world. Live plants and whatnot are so new to me. I'm just happy I haven't killed my plants yet. Yay! Not killing your plants. I think honestly the key to success with growing plants is having a good light. And if you're, you know, obviously you're probably buying your lights from Aquarium Co-op, you've got good lights. The first time I tried live plants, it was just some kit light. You know, you get the 10-gallon starter kit and has an incandescent screw-in bulb, or one fluorescent tube was when they came out next, and they just didn't. I mean, that was back when we actually were able to do it by watts per gallon, and you wanted like 3 watts per gallon, and those would have like 0.5 watts per gallon. It's amazing. You could see your fish. So lighting in the tanks have come a long way in the last, well, even the last 5 years, but definitely the last 20 or 30 years. They've come just leaps and bounds. I remember when the screw-in compact fluorescents came out and I was able to change out the incandescent bulbs. Like I still have some of these little like 8-inch hoods that would come with the 10 gallons or the 5 gallons. And they just take a tube bulb, and you could then get the fluorescent ones, and they would be 15 watt. And so you would finally get 3 watts per gallon on like a 5-gallon tank, and you would finally be able to grow live plants. Because I mean, I'm growing some live plants in soil now because I've got the 2 5s with the soil, but everything else is in sand. I mean, that's the most inert substrate there is. Now, granted, my favorite aquarium plant is Nubius because I just like how they look. I like their color. They grow, but they're not so fast that they're like stem plants where I'm having to cut them every week. I also really like the lilies and the swords and things like that. Yeah, I'm definitely to the point where like I can't even fathom having a tank that doesn't have live plants in it, even when I just set up like the 5s and stuff for shrimp, which don't really need plants. It doesn't work. Like I was thinking of like, oh, I could set up a 40-gallon breeder in my bedroom, and I could do a pleco breeding tank, and then I'm like, no, because I'm going like I don't need to put I don't even really need to put a light on it, or I could put something really cheap on it. And then I'm going to myself, because I do have this 3/4 foot that came with the 75. It was part of the package deal. It was a Marineland LED that came, and it's like 3 feet long, but it extends to fit a 4-foot tank. And it is literally, like, it wouldn't grow, it wouldn't work on that. But I was like, oh, if I put it on a 40 breeder, you know, I could have plecos. And I was like, I don't know if I could do that without plants. Like, it feels wrong. I mean, it'd probably be like a Nubius or something tied to their caves. But also, live plants are just such a great thing for helping with water chemistry. You know, they do a lot for our water chemistry. So Doug's been hunting for a decent RODI unit. Buying an RODI unit from the local fish store is killing his soul, one trip at a time. Have you checked Bulk Reef Supply, Nisi, for ordering one? Because I know their units are pretty reasonable, brand new. And I know Joel had like when he built his, he just bought his parts and that didn't cost too much. But I know Bulk Reef Supply, granted, it's reef-centered distributor, but RODI is almost required if you're doing reef aquariums, because you want your water to be neutral when you add your reef salts to it to make it salt water. Oh, HC, I want to get a Daphnia culture going again. It's so fun watching fish eat Daphnia. I used to do Daphnia outside in a old 55, but then it got mosquito larvae in it, and I'm allergic to mosquito larvae, so it wasn't so much the fish wouldn't eat it, but it was making me super itchy every time I touched it. So I ended up getting rid of it. But the Daphnia was really fun to feed, and I kept some inside in like a 10-gallon. But I'd love to get Daphnia going again. And they're fun. Like, I've seen people, like, I think Rachel keeps a Daphnia culture in like a 20-gallon tall with just a sponge filter and some plants. So it's actually like a cute little aquarium, and probably some snails, because snail poo is real good for Daphnia cultures. Well, next time he's on, I'll be like, hey, Doug, have you checked the Bulk Reef Supply for... They actually, someone was listing one on the local trading site for sale here, but I was like, that's more than it's new. I swear, everyone reselling in Vegas, like in San Diego, I used to be able to get steals on saltwater gear. And something about San Diego, like, people were just wanting to get rid of old gear because they've upgraded or whatever. Here, I think everyone wants to make their money back, because like everything's like the same or more than it would cost new. Like, I swear, someone goes and buys a 40-gallon breeder and then tries to sell it for $80, and you're like, I know you bought that on the 50% off sale, because you still have the stickers on it. But getting a 20-gallon rack, long rack going is cool. Are you gonna do them long-wise, or are you gonna put them like where the long side's facing you, or going back like in a more breeder setup? So Nisi says her orange rand is the only problematic fish. I have plans on potting plants and transferring them that way. I've seen that work, and I just know that there's some plants that work a little better for goldfish, but yeah, goldfish tend to eat them. That's more of the problem. What is it? I think like Java ferns, they don't really like the flavor of, and maybe like you could try something like Val that just grows really fast. I've done the potted plant thing. I actually have some dwarf sagittarius, dwarf sag, done in pots, where I do the little ceramic pot, and then I put the planting material in that, and then I'll put those in the sand-based tank. So there's the dwarf sag in the 10-gallon, and then my crypts in my 75 are done like that. So one thing nice for that for me is that it's just, I don't have to change out the whole substrate. I'm just dealing with one little thing. So she doesn't eat them, she digs them up. So maybe something like, you know, the Anubias and the Java fern, where you can tie down them to an object, like a big rock or something, or, you know, just super glue them on. So she can't really move that around. Like if you have a big river stone and then you have some plants glued to it, that might help. Yeah, because they kind of mouth everything and kind of push the sand around. Also maybe doing like I said, like something like Val, where you have some planted material, but then you put like bigger stones on top of that. Ones she couldn't swallow, but like that would hold them down, so the plants would go through that and grow up, but she couldn't get to them to dig them out. Might work. Because I know some of my friends did that with their some of their like Oscars and stuff. They like to dig and pull things out. So yeah, the planted pot method might work, and then like just put heavy things on top of it so the plants can come through, but she can't get to the soil that's planted in there. That'd actually be it'd be kind of like doing how you do like lily baskets for ponds. You could do something like that, like the aquarium lilies. Put that in the pot, put, you know, planting soil, put that in, and then put some rocks around it so that the aquarium lily is going to shoot its patties up to the, you know, up, but she wouldn't be able to dig them out, so she wouldn't disturb them as much. But I think that's one of the reasons I like my Nubias so much, is they, you know, you can glue it on something, you can make it look like it's in the soil, you can do all sorts of things, and, you know, it looks pretty. I have to decide what I'm going to do with my my gold leaf ones, if I'm going to leave them in the 5 gallon or if I'm going to move them to the 75. But yeah, I've actually been doing pretty well with my plants, except for this whole algae outbreak. But probably need to step up my water change. I mean, my nitrate's fine and everything. I mean, I think it's just whatever's in my tap water. And I don't know if doing more frequent water changes would help or would hinder. I've been upping the dosage on both my Easy Green and my Easy Iron and Carbon. So far, no noticeable change. Yeah, Kurt Wendetti would do the same thing, where like if you plant it, it'll grow up. I mean, if she's not eating them, it's just keeping her from digging them up. She's a gardener. I'm actually like literally proud of myself because I've been able to keep non-aquatic plants alive for over a year now. They're doing a lot better now in this apartment because I have a big window. But I have a couple tropical plants and then a mini rosebush who has decided to become a long stem rosebush, because every time, you know, the plant's like this big, but every time it wants to actually grow a rose, it shoots up this like foot high and then it puts a bloom at the top of it. So Nisi says she might be put on timeout. You know, it's funny, goldfish I've always kind of thought were, you know, like the ugly cute, like fugly, you know, fish. But the more I watch like the different, you know, like Solid Gold Aquatics channel and stuff, I'm like, well, maybe I want to try one. Although I don't really know how how they do in summer here, because I'd probably want to do them in like a little pond or something in the backyard. Do like one of those barrel ponds, those like Japanese style barrel ponds. Joel is ordering, or just ordered, 1,000 Venus flytrap seeds. That's really cool. I've always wanted, like, I really love those carnivorous plants, and I would try them if I had a pond, I think, because I really like what Rachel does with hers, and the and they're such beautiful kinds. They have such beautiful trumpets. Although I think she showed like her feeding them like freeze-dried bloodworms or something. I think it was some sort of freeze-dried food that she just soaked a little bit for her one that was in the house. And I was like, oh, well, if I can feed it stuff that I like, because like the idea of like, do I need to like do a wingless fruit fly culture so I can like feed them? So Joel says he's going to build like a box for them that will move around where the flies are, maybe on wheels, like a mobile Venus flytrap trolley. Well, I'd put it on wheels if you want it to be mobile, otherwise it's gonna be a pain to drag around. So HC says he's tried the seeds once and failed. Hi Gina, welcome. Yeah, I never have really good luck with seed anythings. Like I've tried, I can't even count how many times. Granted, like I said, except for aquatic things, I'm not always the best gardener. But I get them sprouted, and then like somewhere between the sprout stage and like taking them out of the little greenhouse sort of setup. And like this was for like herbs and other plants and flowers and stuff. But I generally do better buying a very small version of something and then growing it out. So best luck to you. Thank goodness though, I mean, it's not that, we don't get that many flies here or mosquitoes or things. Like we get some mosquitoes by, you know, the lake. It's not really a lake, it's a reservoir. But yeah, it's too dry for them here. So we don't get too much. So I don't have like a lot of like, oh, I'd get Venus flytraps because they take care of the pest problem in my backyard, you know? So I would definitely, like, if I got something like that, would have to be hand feeding it to make sure it got any food. But I think they're really cool. I think a lot of those carnivorous plants are really neat. And such a weird thing about the ecosystem. So Nisi, my 2.5s don't have a heater in them. I do have a heater that would work for them, but because they're just shrimp, they can go down to 68, and I'm keeping my apartment at 68, so they're staying right around that that temperature. So because they're just shrimp, if I was going to put something that needed warmer water, like the 10-gallon has the rainbow fry in it, and so that one's kept hotter. That one's kept at 74, which isn't super hot, but you know, I just want to keep it warmer because those are tropical, and I don't want them to. In fact, theoretically, I could crank the heat up to closer to like 78, and they might grow faster because that increases their metabolic rate. But I keep most of my tanks around the 74, except for those 2.5s. But as long as I keep the house at 68, they should stay fine for shrimp, because shrimp do like a little bit colder. If I was going to put a beta in them, so the 5-gallon, the reason I have a heater for that 5-gallon is because it used to be the beta tank, and the beta I kept at 78. So I have a very small titanium heater for it. So if I was to decide to put something in there that needed warmer, I would put the heater in. Or I guess I could crank up the heat in my house. So a lot depends on, I guess, how warm your office is kept. Is it kept at 72? You should be fine, as long as you keep things that are cooler water. If you want a beta, I would put a heater in there because they're happiest between 78 and 82. So, I mean, depending on the kind of beta. I'm assuming, you know, standard beta Splenda. I haven't had a beta for like a year now, and I'm like having withdrawals. Not that I have room for one. I guess I could put him in the 75. I want to get a crown-tailed Picot, but finding one would be hard. Yeah, Nisi, you would need a heater no matter what. So I just use the titanium heater, and I get the 50-watt one, which is overkill, but I would put it on, you know, like I said, I have the best luck with the titanium heaters because they don't tend to bust, break, fuse together sort of situations, and then you just make sure you get one that has a good heating sensor. So Susan says she's got a breeding tube made, but now the babies are swimming into it. That's funny. Hey Corvus, how's you doing? I usually go live at 10:30 Pacific Standard Time. So, like an hour and a half ago, hour and 45 minutes ago. So we've just been, oh Joel, is it freezing outside? Okay, clarify, actually freezing or is it just cold outside? Because, you know, see, the Tacoma area can go either way. Oh, you're actually learning something from me, Susan? I just figured we were rambling most of the time. I ramble a lot in my stream from one topic to another. Frozen fog. Ooh, freezing fog. That is a weather pattern I do not miss. Although I think fog is beautiful, I prefer it when it's not freezing, because then it's just nasty. Okay, yeah, no, I get that, Susan. Basically, you know, you ask me a question, I can try to answer it, or I'll tell you if I don't know. Yeah, HC Aqua learned that he should cover his mystery snail tank. Well, I'm using over a protein shake today, Nisi, but yes, coffee would be a nice. So Corvus says, freezing fog, everyone crashes their cars. Yes, unfortunately, because nobody knows how to drive in that. And then, but you got to say hi to some cows and horses today. Well, that's cool. Did you say, hi cow, I would like to eat you for lunch? Yes, Corvus, my shrimp order did come in. Some casualties, the snails that I ordered with them, one made it, one of the 6 made it, and everything else smelled heinous. A few die-offs on the shrimp, but they look really nice, like good color, so I'm happy with that. So now my kitchen counters has blue, a red, and orange. Lavender, your bum's in the way. Blue, orange, and red shrimp. So I should have gotten blue, red, white, and blue shrimp. It could have been ironically patriotic. But also I found Hydra in one of my shrimp tanks, so I think I'll throw a couple baby Corys in there, see if they'll nibble them up. But would Otocinclus, you think, they'd probably be fine with shrimp. I can't imagine them doing bad. Well, not every shrimp are those 3 colors, but there's the Blue Dreams, the orange Neoticaridinus, and then the Bloody Marys, which are the red-bodied shrimp, which are just beautiful. They're really dark red. They're gorgeous. Unfortunately, one of them passed away and became snail food. But they would be really cool if they were like multicolored. I'd probably win some sort of shrimp competition with, if I could get a blue shrimp with orange and red patterning. That would be amazing. Susan has red cherry shrimp, very cool. Yeah, I was actually wondering if red cherry shrimp and the Bloody Marys would crossbreed, and what would happen if they did. Would you get even redder? Would you get even redder fish because the cherries have the red exoskeletons and the Bloody Marys have the red flesh? Within that, or would it just become mutt fish or mutt shrimp? Gina has been dubbed the fish fam aunt. Well, yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, genetically, red and red would give red. So then, like, if one has the body tissue red and one has the exoskeleton red, would you get, like, the super dark red? But I'm not gonna, oh, you just, Nisi says she's heard that you just get low-grade cherries. Yeah, that's what I would be afraid of. You just get, like, fugly shrimp. So it would be an interesting genetic project if I had the room or time or inclination. I'll leave that to shrimp breeders out there, I think. Everyone should have at least one mutt tank. Well, it probably will end up going that direction. HC, so I have the 5-gallon with the Bloody Marys, and I have a 5-gallon with the Blue Dreams, and then I have a 10-gallon with the oranges in it. And I assume when they start populating, when, I say when, not if, when they start populating those, that I will pull the extras and probably put them in like the 75. So that would become like the mishmash tank. So Nisi says the Bloody Mary call shrimp through all types of colors. I've been toying with making a cull tank at work to see Skittles. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'd been stocking for ages on LR Brett's, was just to buy his Skittle pack, because he just has all these different colors, and they just breed and create more. So, so sorry, the kitty's distracting me. She's distracting all of us, but she brought me her toy. She's sitting right here, and she brought this to me and dropped it on my desk. At least, unlike when you're listening to Corey's streams, you're like, oh, I hear mewing, and then you're like, oh, it's just his YouTube counter. Mine's an actual cat. Mine's an actual kitty cat. Yes, Dean, it's live. Hi, how are you doing? And I think Lumpy Dog popped in too. Hi, Lumpy Dog. Yes, this is live. She is a pretty cat. She's very sweet. I was teasing her this morning, telling her I needed another kitty, but she said no. She said no. She dropped this on the floor last night, and I was like, you know, the Roomba's gonna eat that. And so then, of course, I had to rescue it from the Roomba this morning, because it ate it. Oh, yes, she does. You know, and as soon as I sit down, like with the laptop on my lap, she'll be like right here, being even more obnoxious and in my way and making it hard for me to type. But I love her to pieces, so that's okay. Yes, the Roomba, Joel. You know, the vacuum that I don't have to use personally. But kitties are problematic because they leave their toys all over the floor. Am I teasing you, Lavender, you poor thing? Here, if I throw you a toy, you want to go get it? Sometimes she'll play fetch. Maybe, maybe not. So Susan says, I had a cat that when I sat down to read the paper, she plopped her whole body onto the paper, so I couldn't read the, yeah. I have like a catalog here that I've been trying to read, and like I'll turn a page and then she comes and sits on it. So much fur, that's why I have a Roomba. See, that way, all this pretty kitty fur gets vacuumed up every day. Yeah, dogs are even worse about leaving their toys around. She only has a couple that are her favorite. all her other toys are things like, she just decided the hard drive plug was a toy because she's now batting at that. This is a toy, little binder clip. You know, she just makes toys out of things. She has a basket, I mean like a full-on like little kid-size laundry basket full of cat toys. But she really likes other things better. You know, I just had to order a whole stack of new charging cables for my phone, which I should check the battery life on. Woo, we're at 30%. I'm gonna try to plug this back in and hopefully it doesn't, if we end up being crooked, that's not gonna be the end of the world, I don't think. Bye HC, have a good day. Catch you next week. But she chewed up like my phone charging cable when she was a kitten, and then the bird's done his share of phone charging cables, and she thinks they're toys because, you know, they dangle places, like you leave them plugged into the wall, and so then that's a toy. So they're a lost commodity, but not a bad, you know, it's not bad. We don't we don't destroy too much stuff anymore. She's getting older. She's a 3, or are you gonna be 4 this December? I think you're gonna be 4. So she's an adopted kitty, and I adopted her in October, and she was about a year old, like a little under a year old. So we decided her birthday was Christmas. So, and there's a very close-up shot of her face. Lavender right in front of the camera. I haven't got my mail yet today, Joel, but I will go check it if I'm supposed to be maybe getting something in there. Yeah, Susan, we actually talked about that a little bit last stream, about maybe changing my channel name, whether it's just be like Jennifer's, you know, Jennifer's Pets or Jennifer's Animal. Giant cat. Well, she was like an inch from the camera. Yeah, it's just like deciding the branding, I guess, is what we have to figure out, whether I want to do something specifically aquatic or if I just want to, you know, at least indicate that I am more than just a name on the chat. Jennifer Crazy Cat Lady. But it's so much more than just Crazy Cat Lady, Joel. It's Crazy Cat, Fish, Bird, Pet Person. Oh, Lumpy Dog says our rescue kitties love shoelaces. Oh, yeah, she's destroyed a few shoelace ends in her day. Has Joel not seen the birdie? Have you not seen it? Oh, bird news. So I've always paid someone to clip his nails. I officially clipped his nails by myself. I was terrified and he was biting the hell out of me, but I did it and it wasn't that bad. Joel, I am not going to make a logo of a picture of myself throwing a cat. But that's hilarious because that reminds me, if you haven't seen this before, so Salvador Dali he was photographed, you know, and he's the surrealist painter, the one with the droopy clock things. There was a portrait done of him, so if you Google his name, you'll see it, and there's like splashing water, and there's cats flying, and then there's a picture of him, and like paintings, because, you know, that just, that's what it reminds me of. Maybe I should just make that my thumbnail. Like a little piece of classic art, because that kind of encompasses like my work too. Priscilla wants to see the bird. Okay, hold on, I'll get Ducky out. Hammer Ducky, the public wants to see you. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. He's excited to see you too. So this is Ducky. You're not gonna say hi, Ducky? He's like, I'm watching the camera, what's it doing? So yeah, he got his nails done. So now they're no longer snagging in my clothes when he sits on my shoulder. Ducky is the best, aren't you, Ducky? Well, you're also the best too, Lavender. See, they get jealous. So Susan says she's been pulling her Cory eggs and hatching them in a breeder box. Awesome, awesome. So I just usually feed them frozen baby brine shrimp and microworms when they first hatch out. And they grow pretty quick and they're adorable. The bird and the cat have an understanding. The cat knows if the bird, which is climbing up my back. Come here, Ducky. Come here. What are you doing? Come here, you silly bird. There you go. He will bite her if she gets too close. She's very curious about the bird, but they are never unsupervised together. Yeah, they really are pretty small, but they grow pretty quick. You know, like there's a substantial growth difference 1 week from the next with the Cory babies. And I'm assuming if you're in a breeder box, you're floating them in their tank, so you have heater and everything, because they do grow faster if you keep them at like around 74. If they're too low, they don't grow as fast because they just don't have the metabolism. Joel says, tell the cat if she eats the bird, you'll eat her. There's days when the bird's being a brat and I say, if you're not nice, I'll feed you to the cat. Where are you going, Duck? He's like on the back of my shirt. Just hanging out. Oh, he just bit my armpit. That hurt. Oh yeah, I didn't think about that. So the breeder box I used when I hatched the last batch was a net. And so they didn't wiggle out as out of that. What you could do instead of using like a slice box is actually just like stick a Tupperware in there and like float a Tupperware container in there. And then you just need to do the water changes and maybe run a little air bubbler. Just a little, you know, air so the water doesn't get deoxygenated. Are you having a conversation over here, Nuggie? So if you guys didn't know, if you follow me on Facebook, the other day I pulled him out of the cage and he had been chewing on, he has some rope in there that he can chew on, and he chewed on it and he got a little piece stuck in his beak and it looked like he had this little tiny mustache and it was absolutely adorable. The bird sometimes hangs out with me while I do water changes. He really likes the sound of the running water, so he's always really excited. Before I had the kitty, because he was around first. Bye, Joel. See you hopefully tonight on Corvus's stream. But when he was, when it was just him, he did everything with me. And so he would sit on the edges of the tanks while I did water changes and stuff. Now he mostly just hangs out in his cage. And then, you know, does this stuff with me. Sometimes he helps me make breakfast. He likes to help feed the fish. He absolutely loves fluval bug bites. He gets almost downright nasty if I don't let him take a bite out of the jar when I'm feeding it. Which just makes me think that his bird, like pre-made bird food is like probably lacking in like protein, because it's, you know, one of those like, you know, it looks like Fruity Pebbles almost. Oh, Gina, you're doing a subscriber contest live tonight? I'll try to stop by. Corvus's stream is 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I love you too, Susan. I'll catch you later, and stay safe in the snow, and hopefully you enjoy it. Oh, see, he's doing the thing he loves best. See, this shirt has sparkles on it, so he likes pulling them off. That's what he's chewing on. He ripped off a sparkle. I can't have nice things. My bird eats them. What was worse is I bought a new dress and it had these like sparkles around the edge, and I was wearing it. I wasn't paying attention to him because like I think I was writing a paper or something, and he'd like removed the sparkles from all one side, so then I had to sit and like pull off all the other ones so at least it matched. So yeah, Lucas is on at like 9:30 Eastern. Sometimes he's on even later than that, 'cause sometimes it's like 9:30 Pacific. Rachel's going right after Corvus, so it's going to be a busy night. So yeah, you'll have to tell Nisi and what time you're on so she can post it on the live stream. I just made Nisi a mod so she can post the aquarium live stream link. Because you know you needed another modding responsibility, Nisi. Yeah, Friday really does, like the whole world goes. Like I remember when I was like, what day should I pick to do live streams? And I was like, oh, Friday morning, because like nobody goes on Friday. It was just like Corvus at 4. So I was like, oh no, and then like all of a sudden, you know, everyone is going on Fridays. Next quarter, I'll probably move to Saturday morning, just FYI, or we'll probably talk about it more. But my teaching schedule, I'll have Monday and Wednesday morning or Saturday morning available, so we can decide which one works best for all of us. Saturday probably actually wouldn't, I don't know. No, I do this one right after I teach a night shift, so that's not too bad. But my spring schedule is really weird. The guy that did the scheduling was on his way out, like he left he put in his notice and he was still doing scheduling, so he wasn't really caring what he put people's schedule on. So then I had to go to the dean, and because I was actually scheduled for 7 classes and I'm only supposed to teach 5, which is still a heck of a lot to teach, by the way. 5 classes is crazy amount to teach. And so then I have a split, so I have an 8 to noon class, and then I have a 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. class. And he's like, you shouldn't have been scheduled a split, and I had been scheduled a triple, which means an 8 to noon, 1 to 5, and a 6 to 10 all in one day. And that's what I was okay with the split. I was grumbly about it, but I was okay. And then like when the triple got put on my schedule, I went to him and I was like, I can't teach for 15 hours straight. I just can't do it. Like, I physically cannot teach that many classes in a row. Not to mention, like, the students would be getting the short end of the stick because I have no time to prep for those classes. And it was a triple after night class, so it was like teach at 10 p.m. and then be back at 8 p.m. or 8 a.m. the next morning. So Nisi says, if you want to be put on the live stream page, just message the page directly, and or make a post on the page probably is fine, to put a post that you're going to be live streaming. She's training someone, and getting all the text messages is probably a lot of extra that she doesn't necessarily need on her plate. Are you excited about the new job, Nisi? Well, like I usually respond like when I post I just responded to today's post saying, oh, I'm going to go on at 10:30. So, you know, if people are following that or they open it, they'll see that. So I haven't figured out I haven't figured out how to schedule the live stream from my phone yet. So I guess that's the next step, to actually like put it on the schedule so that it announces it before I go on. But yes, Lumpy Dog, yeah, today a big celebration day, 100 subscribers. I'm real excited. I think, you know, I mean, I think someone said, I think Steenfot said it like eons ago, that if you really want to get your subscriber numbers up, live streaming helps tremendously. Because, I mean, I was barely at 50 the last time, or I think I was under 50 when I started live streaming, and I've just been live streaming for a month, or 2 months now, I guess. Look, Bird and Kitty, you see the sunlight is hitting you hard, Lavender, there. And you know, I've doubled my audience in a month from just live streaming, which is ironic because I think most of you are already subscribed, so it seems funny that that would cause the numbers to go up. But you know, YouTube, whatever algorithm. Yeah, so Nisi says when I posted there, she just adds it to the full post. So yeah, that works, you know, it seems to work out fine. So Priscilla asks, any tips on product photos like prints? Asking for a friend. For a friend that might be Priscilla MK Art. So do you mean like taking photos or like printing photos of products? Because tips on product photos, I think of like, I'm going to take a picture of this product to post on my website. And in that case, you want like a white background so that the product stands out. Unless it's a white thing, then you might want to use a different color. You can use natural light. There's a lot of really good photographers taking photos of the prints. Okay, so in that case, it still work. Like, you want a neutral setting to put them on. I usually suggest going and just getting like poster board, so you have a nice clean like bottom and top, and then you can just you want to light them kind of at a 45-degree angle. So if the camera is, if the camera is here, you want the lights coming at a 45-degree angle from the camera towards the subject, and you kind of want two of them so that they cast the light across. You don't want the light, this is where it's confusing and it's hard to tell you on camera, but if you look at any light, if you're using like a lamp, there's the hottest part of the light is in the center, and then the edges are softer and more feathered in their look. You want to hit the print with that feathered edge. So if you have the two lights pointing, that the feathers overcross, but not that middle hot part hitting the print. Because if the hot part hits the print, it'll blow out that section, and kind of like the window light is doing right now to me. And it'll cause it to be really bright, and then it'll fade off and it won't look as natural. So if you overlight, yeah, ring lights also work pretty nicely, because again, they do that circular, even feathered light. Ducky, are you looking into people's souls? Okay, you can play with this one random hair that doesn't want to stay on the right side of my head. So hopefully that makes sense. If you play with the lights and you kind of move them so that they're barely casting that edge light over and even, that should help even that out. You could also send me copies of your prints and then I'll photograph them for you. But I mean, I think you need their photos so you can make copies, right? Because you're photographing the original. The other thing to do is get a good scanner. If you get a high quality scanner, it'll scan the print nicely. Although you have to get a pretty good quality one because cheap scanners don't have a really good color range, so you won't get the full color. Hey, birdie. You can see Kitty staring at bird. Kitty, birdie. Don't eat me. Okay, so you've got a digital, so you just need it for Etsy. Yeah, so you just want that rim of the lighting to hit the print. I think that'll really help out. And then of course it helps if it's not glossy, because glossy's just gonna reflect. I'm wearing those glasses, Ducky. Sorry, the children are distracting me. You're distracting me. He's like, what, me? Me? I'm just eating your glasses, Mom. You're now blind and can't read the comments. So yeah, daylight on a light brown drawing table. It probably would look better if you used a cream or a white, just as the like you can just put, like I said, like a poster board. Another thing to do is if you're using like daylight is to diffuse it. So, or even it'll work with the lamp, is like hang a white sheet between the light and the print. So the light's going through that, it'll diffuse it and cause the light to be softer and not as harsh. So it won't get as big of hot spots. I need those back. The children are becoming obnoxious. An ivory transparent curtain would work. Yeah, that definitely helps. I mean, we have scrims in the photo studio, and they're basically just a opaque surface that diffuses the light. You know, obviously you can buy everything for photography and it's really expensive. But there's always a way to jerry-rig it. And that's what I'm always trying to teach my students. Don't just say, oh, I couldn't use the lighting because I didn't have a flash. It's like, well, you know, make one. You're not hard. Yeah, see, this can be the Jennifer's Fuzzy Fish and Photo channel. But would I have to spell F with, or photo with an F to make that alliterative? Fuzzies, fish, feathers, and photos. The only real tip I can give you on the fish tank stuff, make sure your lights are on all the way and your glass is as clean as possible. But honestly, like, patience, and a lot of times I think the best tip is to, you know, just be ready to you know, like, I often put my camera, like when I'm trying to do macro stuff, like, I mean, most of the time I take pictures with my cell phone and you just click on the thing, you're trying to focus and you hope the fish doesn't swim by too fast. But if I'm pulling out my real camera and I have like the macro lens on it, it's picking a focal spot and waiting for the fish to be in it and taking tons and tons and tons of pictures until you get the right shot. Ducky is climbing down my pant leg. Why are you climbing down my pant leg, child? Oh, you see, you wanted him out and he's just distracting me. I can't think straight. My ADD is overwhelmed. Yeah, I mean, I would definitely like figure out the behavior of your fish and pick like the slowest time of day. Like, you know, if they're feeding, they're zipping past really fast. You're gonna want to pick, you know, maybe a slower time where they might be just kind of hanging out in the back. Obviously, a good camera so that you can zoom in helps. I mean, crop in. So like maybe, you know, you have a big picture and this little thing down here is really good. If you have a high enough resolution, it won't look cruddy once you do that. If you're using a camera that does doesn't have an actual zoom lens, but is just digital zoom, it'll start looking pretty poor because of that. Hold on, this lighting is killing me. It's killing me. This may or may not be better, but at least we won't have me being blinded by the light. Yeah, we're still getting some of that striping there. It's the photo person in me going like, it's so overexposed, I can't handle it. Yeah, like the shrimp are easier because they pretty much stay still. Now, if I wanted to get one of them swimming through the water, that's a lot trickier. But like mostly they just sit there and just like, you know, graze on things so you can get them a little easier. You know, the plecos don't move much. Cories can be tricky because but usually one will come by. Like if you have your little spot staked out, eventually one will swim into it to do that. But like my cardinals aren't necessarily hard, but it's hard to show the group of them because they're always like hiding in the back. Oh yeah, I can't even imagine trying to get like Danios. God, those things swim so fast. And they never stop moving. You know, yeah, the puffers and the angels, much easier. So, I mean, a lot of it's just patience, and then, you know, a few hundred shots later, you'll finally get one that turns out good. All right, Nisi, have a great day. I'm sure I'll catch up with you later. I probably should get going here pretty soon, and we're at 140 minutes, so over 2 hours. I gotta get some lunch pretty soon here. I've been on this antibiotic for a week, and antibiotics are always a pain, and they make you feel yucky, but it's like I'm not allowed to eat anything an hour before taking it, or 2 hours before taking it, or an hour after, and then it says if it causes nausea, take it with milk, but don't eat it with any sort of dairy or anything with calcium because that lowers the ability of it, how it works. And I was like, that's an oxymoron. People like, either am I taking it with milk or not taking it with milk? So, and what I've noticed is if you take it with milk, it makes my stomach even feel yuckier. So it's in a lot of like trying to finagle when to take it so I can eat and then get to work on time. But luckily I'll be done with it this weekend. Is Gina leaving too? Or oh no, that was Nisi saying bye back. Okay. Yeah, we've all probably got fish stuff to do today. I was actually thinking maybe trying to go north town. I haven't actually been to the north side of Vegas. There's a fish store up there that I wouldn't mind checking out. You resealed your 75 and you're gonna do a leak test. Well, I'm crossing my fingers for you. Resealing a tank sounds like a pain. But I'm kind of in that boat. Like I have a 20 gallon and I'm like, it's been outside in Vegas for summer and it was old to start with. Its seals are probably shot. So then am I like, do I reseal it or do I just get rid of it and buy a new 20 gallon at $1 per gallon sale? Because is it worth $20 of effort? I mean, I'd have to buy a silicone gun and silicone if I was to reseal it, plus a bunch of razor blades to get the silicone out. Took 2 tubes of silicone. It's probably cheaper for me to just buy a 20 gallon at a $1 per gallon sale. Obviously a 75, you know, the cost is the cost to effort changes because the cost of a 75 is much higher than a cost of a 20 gallon. But at the same time, I'm not sure if I'd want, like, the first thing I tried to reseal to be such a big tank. That seems kind of scary too. It's like when I moved in I had this, the Pearly Ocellatus came in this really old 55 gallon. And it had been leaking, and I was like, well, I could take it and reseal it. And I was like, nope, I'll just buy a new one when I get there. And it was like 60 bucks, the tank with the lid. I was like, that was the best choice ever. So we just went to the fish store, bought the 55, came home, then I set it up. So it's kind of like, I was talking to one of my students used to have reefs, and we were talking about building sumps and stuff. And you know, we were talking about like dream shapes and size tanks and different where you get custom tanks, right? Because I don't know if any of you watch it, but like the not Shark Tank, Tanked, isn't that what it's called? The aquarium guys, they actually are in Vegas, and they have the aquarium service, and they actually have a pet store, a fish store. So I kind of want to go in there to see what the actual fish store looks like. But like, I mean, I obviously have someone here that can do custom acrylic aquariums because they do them for all the big casinos. I mean, whether they're going to be a reasonable price, I mean, I'm sure they do a decent price, but they're a business. But I was talking about, like, you know, if I wanted to do something like a 180 or a 240 or something, you know, and I'd want custom, you know, I'd want acrylic, I'd want custom overflows. I mean, not even super custom, like, because I probably is a pretty standard setup, but like, it's just like, you know, I'd want the feeding ports and things to make it more convenient, and, you know, getting it all done just how you want it to spec. Because the fact is, anytime you order that big of a tank, it's going to be pretty custom just by adding overflows to it. So, you know, it's like this dream tank down the line, and I'm going like, I wonder how much that would cost. I still get no, like, my parents giving away my 2 120s. And now I don't know if I would have been able to really move them up here just because they were glass and that's heavy, and don't really have a vehicle big enough to drive them in anymore. But it's like, I don't think I'd want to go any bigger than that and not go acrylic. Just, I mean, I've had acrylic before, and I don't really like it because it does scratch really easy, and if you get it used, it's always a pain because you got to resurface it. But the fact is, you can resurface it. Like, my 10 gallon is all scratched up because it's ancient old, and it's, you know, I've had it, it's the one I moved up to the Pacific Northwest with, and one of the mag float things got sand in it, scratched it, and you can't, yeah, it's called like ATM, I think. And they literally have a retail fish store in town. I think it mostly caters to saltwater, but they do some freshwater, I know, because I mean, a big part of their business other than the show is aquarium maintenance and service, because they do that for the casinos and the hospitals and the doctor's offices and stuff. They have a big service here for that. So, I mean, they do a lot more than just what they show on TV. But I asked my student, because he's like, I went, you know, and I didn't know what to expect, and he said that the livestock looked great and they were in good shape and well cared for. So, I mean, that's good to hear. Because I know a lot of times people bash that show on like the fish forums or fish channels and stuff, And I think what people don't realize is that they actually do cycle the tanks. They just show it like it's the next day or the same day. Like, you know, they set up an aquarium and then they come back in 4 weeks once it's cycled, or the live rock's cured. Or they're using cured live rock in their salt waters. So I think they do an actual pretty decent business. Not that I think I can afford them. My guess is they're very expensive. If they're used to dealing with casino budgets, you know, please build me a 120 freshwater. Yeah, saltwater though, there are ways to kind of instant cycle. You just use cycled materials. I mean, I'm not saying they do everything perfect on that show. I just think people give them a harder time and they forget about the magic of television and how they can show something like it's the next day and it's really months later. I think the thing I notice is a lot of times they put too much stock in at once, because salt water that you really should like add a little bit at a time. But another thing that I think a lot of people don't realize is a lot of those tanks, they cycle the stock through. Yeah, made for TV drama, exactly. But like what I mean by cycle is stock through is like the casinos don't want the same puffer fish every day because people aren't coming to see the puffer fish. But they like to see different things. So like maybe they'll bring in saltwater puffer fish, and then they'll bring in lionfish, and then they'll bring in angelfish, and they'll rotate out what's actually kept in the different aquariums. So like you could go, especially like doctor's offices as well. So it's not that the fish get sick and die and then they bring something else in. They literally go catch the fish and change them out and then take the other ones back to their store. And then those fish might go end up in another tank across town. Yeah, if it was just for TV or just showing how that they did the TV, they wouldn't have a show anymore. But yeah, they have a really big holding facility for all the fish. And I think that's what people don't realize. They don't see a lot of the business. You know, they see a little bit of the floor and then a lot of them installing stuff. And I mean, I think that's it's a drawback of American real TV stuff. Is they over dramatize, they make them seem all like they really aren't. Like, you know, you always see them fighting, and they probably like fight once a month, but it's always on the channel, it's always in the episodes. And then there's a lot of, you know, like the cleaning business, like all those tanks that come with service contracts. They're out there doing water changes and filter maintenance and stuff. You know, it's not just left up to the really fancy doctor's office they just installed at. Ducky, did you have something to say? We were? Remember? Yeah, if you pay that much, it better come with service. You know, I have a friend, you know, in Yakima, and that's her. She's built a whole business on aquarium service, and that's a tiny town. But there's enough preschools and daycares and doctors' offices and hospitals and dental offices and people that just need home service, to the point where she had to stop taking home service clients. She would do it for me when I was out of town for holidays or on like over the summer, as like a friend favor. I mean, I still paid her, but I mean, she was busy enough with just her standard commercial clients to not need the home people that are like, oh, you know, every once a month they'll have her come or do that. And she used to like, when she'd first started, she did like nails and birds and wing trimmings and stuff on the birds and animal dogs and cats. And then she got to the point where she did, you know, she cut that part out of her business. And like
we'd get together and I'd bring Ducky and she'd trim his nails for me just out of being nice. But I mean, that was something she was like, I don't make enough on a house call for a, you know, $10 per animal nail trimming. Because the fact is, you do a nail trimming for $10, but you end up talking for an hour. You know, you don't just go in and clip nails and go. Because as she started, she was managing one of the local pet stores. But then she left to start her own business. And so a lot of the people that were getting the nails done from her, because she was an expert with birds. Ducky doesn't just look like trouble. Ducky is trouble. Ain't you? Stop biting my lips. You're being a bird. Yeah, most fish stores offer like dog trimmings, like dog nail trimmings and stuff. Or not fish stores, pet stores. And a lot of fish stores have, they either do them out, like they have employees that do the home service. Oh yes, well you're being a bit of a brat. But I've had a few fish stores that they say, no, we don't offer that anymore, but here's a card of someone who does. But what happened was, she worked at this local pet store that had fish, and then the owner decided to get rid of the fish section. So, I mean, she left, and then the owner decided to get rid of the fish section. Joel asks, where do you think Vicky hid the candy? I can't find the chocolate. I put mine on the upper shelf of the pantry cupboard. It's generally where I hide the candy from myself. My chocolates I literally keep in the baking cabinet with the chocolate. Well, I don't think she'd hide it in the fish room. Yeah, I think, Priscilla, that's a big thing. People don't like local fish stores don't think, like they think just selling fish will be enough, or they don't specialize in something. Like here, there's a ton of local fish stores, but they're all like really saltwater based, and that's something that the Petco PetSmart doesn't really do. I mean, obviously Petco has some saltwater, but not a lot. Now, find whatever the healthiest thing in your house is, Joel, and look behind there. That's usually where you hide the candy and the chocolate. Like if you have like all the healthy snacks on a shelf in the pantry, go behind those. Yeah, probably, Priscilla. Selling livestock, selling online, doing service would probably do the trick for a local owned fish store. And then really like specializing, right? So like Corey's store has a lot of the common community fish, but he will bring in special orders, but he also specializes in plants. And like that's something I see a lot of local fish stores don't. Like I have a local fish store and it's pretty big. It's half saltwater. They've got a nice tank selection area, big tanks with really nice built stands, like 2x4 built stands, like solid wood construction. And they're reasonably priced. Then they have like 4 rows of saltwater and then 4 rows of freshwater and then a really nice selection of rocks and stuff. What they're missing is any live plants. Like I think there's one tank with some miscellaneous live plants in there. They're missing out on this whole selection, but they tend to have more African lake fish and then fancy plecos, and they have angels, but like I see a lot of the different lakes. I mean, they do have Lake Tanganyika, and they have Lake Victoria, they have, you know, your standard, you know, your standard African, you know, yellow laps and stuff like that. What they don't have a lot of is your common, I mean, they do have some of your common community fish, but I think they don't really stock a lot of what you would find at Petco or PetSmart. Yeah, any store that has to recommend you to go to Amazon or go somewhere else to get what you need isn't doing something right. And now, like this store that I've gone to a couple times, and I mean, I've bought frozen food, so they have the frozen food I need, but they don't have every food. Like they don't have one of the smaller foods that Corey's always feeding, and I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head, but you know, they have the baby brine, and they have regular brine, and they have bloodworms, but then everything else is pretty much saltwater frozen food, which, I mean, it's a saltwater town. I get it. There is not one freshwater shop, just fully freshwater aquarium shop here in Vegas. They do have some really nice rock. They have like Texas Holy Rock, and they have the Dragonstone and the Sakura Stone and the Lace Rock. So they have a lot of different rock selection. But one thing I haven't noticed is much of a selection in like filters and heaters, but then I haven't went in there specifically looking to buy. A lot of that stuff I just order because it's more convenient anyway, because I get like 3 days off a week, and driving all over town to shop for stuff isn't really enjoyable for me. Well, I guess it's a bonus for you, right? The liquidation sale where you get to get everything cheap. There is a fish store up in the north side of town that's moving. They're not closing, but they're moving. And I also think it's probably one of those things, like Corey mentioned it on his Thanksgiving live stream, that like they have to pay taxes on their inventory at the end of the year, or like that's based on income or something. So like having a liquidation sale right at before your New Year's, and then you restock, you know, January 1st. So Phil says Gumpton's here in Wichita has been here since 1966. That's awesome that it's got that kind of staying power. I often notice that the fish stores that have been around forever and ever sometimes still do things the old way, and they don't embrace online marketing. So Corvus, there's this thing called 7-Eleven, and you can go there and you can buy candy. The drugstore and the grocery store also sell it. Any gas station. If you're that bad of craving, I'm sure there's one within a few miles. Oh, that's too bad, Priscilla. So they're closing, but they're the one that was carrying your prints. I have some cookies in the cupboard that are really yummy, but they have malt barley in them, so I can't eat them. You're welcome to those. It's a bit of a drive, though, I'll warn you. But you could come help me figure out why the blackbeard algae is just getting worse. Worse and worse and worse. It's a huge basket of candy. So she didn't put it like in the living room somewhere, like in a candy bowl, or like use it as a candy bar. I guess you could always text her and ask, hey, where'd the candy go? Well, Priscilla, just don't come in the summer. It hasn't been 117 since October. Oh, if she's hiding it from you purposefully. I don't. Do you do laundry? Are you a laundry person? Or if you're like, I never do my own laundry, you might check the laundry room. Ooh, yes. With the girly supplies. You even looked in the dryer. Las Vegas is about to have an NFL team too. Frank probably stole them. They're with him in the attic. Oh. Well, Corvus, if you're coming for MACNA next year in September, it's going to be hot again because it does not cool off until the end of October. Because I think it was still 80 in the October. Well, it's not like any NHL team plays on natural ice. It's all a manufactured ice. I just can't believe the Raiders are coming here. Why does it have to be the Raiders? I hate the Raiders. Why do they have to be the new Vegas team? And that's why so serious? I was like, and that's the most I know about football for the day. I actually was saying, like, over Thanksgiving, my dad records all the games on the Dish Network system, and then so like the whole weekend it was game after game after game after game. But I just had, like, when I was a kid, we would go to games. Like, my parents are Broncos fans because they grew up in Colorado and Utah. And Utah does not have any teams. And we'd go to we went to the Broncos game in LA back when it was the LA Raiders before they moved to Oakland. And it was terrifying. They're painted, they're scary, they're like biker guys, and they're pounding on your cars and they're screaming at you. Oh, I'm sure that the Broncos aren't doing very well, I think. I know my dad said that. But, I mean, I haven't followed football since I moved out of the house, except I was aware when the Seahawks were in the playoffs because I was in Washington, and it's a little impossible. Although I was a little torn because growing up with parents that are Broncos fans, the year that it was the Broncos versus the Seahawks, and I was like, I can't even go to the bar and watch this because I can't cheer for, like, I'm torn between the local team and the team I grew up watching. Peyton left? Well, see, I didn't even know that. I know who he is, but that's at least enough to follow. You almost broke your TV at that Super Bowl? Oh my goodness. I followed it on my phone from my, like, dismal little sad apartment because I was like, I don't know who to root for. And then the next year it was easier because it was the Seahawks. I don't even remember who they played. And so it was just like, okay. But yeah, like Yakima, like they're, God. Washingtonians in general are huge Seahawks fans. That's just crazy. I remember when, what was it? It was the Broncos when they went to the Super Bowl and it was San Diego. And my dad was offered tickets and we were like, no, we'd rather not deal with the traffic. And we watched it from home and then the Broncos won. It was a good game. He's following college ball now and he's always like, so did you know your school's in the playoffs? And I'm like, no. Like, I went to some of my WSU, some of the Coup games when I was at WSU because I'd get free tickets, but why would I don't have a TV. I keep telling him, I don't have a TV. How would I know this? 5-gallon tanks at Petco aren't cheap. I think they're around $20 or $15 to $20. It's actually cheaper to buy a 10-gallon. You know what you could do, Dank, is you could get a 10-gallon and just fill it half full. Priscilla, I don't think the 5 gallons are on the $1 per gallon sale. I think it's only 10s, the 220s and the 40s and 55s are on half off. Well, like, what about just running it half full? At least then it's half the dosage. Unless you have, I guess a hang on the back, it might not work to do that because a lot of them can't pump that much. Oh, they do have yeah. I just never see them then if they are included on the sale. Because I do like that size. I mean, it's a great little shrimp size. It's a great little nano size for, you know, your countertop. Yeah, if you're using a sponge, you can do that because you can also pull the lift tube off. You don't need that. Like, there's some random rumor online saying they don't work if you don't have the lift tube, but like I see them all the time working with the lift tube gone. And then, you know, it just makes them shorter. So if the water line, because the water does need to be above the lift tube, but if you pull the lift tube off, then it would work. Or yeah, use a Rubbermaid tub from Walmart or Target or the dollar store. Well, if you're just using it as an excuse to buy a 5-gallon tank, we won't tell. Your secret is safe with us. If you're trying to make it so the medicine is easier, then you run the tank at half volume. Yeah, I really don't. I mean, I get the appeal of using the Rubbermaid or a 5-gallon bucket because I have like 20 orange 5-gallon buckets from moving the fish up here, from the move and buying all of them. I mean, I could quarantine in those, but I can't see the fish very well. So that to me, I don't really like doing that. I did that once when I got big fish. You know, I had the Siamese algae eaters, so they need more swimming room. I put them in a big Rubbermaid tote, but I ended up, and it's not smart, but I ended up cutting their quarantine short because I just couldn't observe them very well. So Nisi says 15 isn't bad, and the heaters I've hoarded from the 10 gallons, I'm pretty sure don't work anymore. Yeah, don't trust old heaters. SD Dink, that's meeting in the middle, right? Run it at half volume, and then you get a 10-gallon, and then when it secretly becomes a new tank, you've got a 10-gallon to work with, which is generally a better volume and easier to get stuff for. It's easier to find a heater that fits well, where you're not worried about too much heat going in there because it's, or one of those god-awful little preset heaters. You know, you can get good filters for them, lids, lights, all of that's real standard. So Priscilla says she trains her 75 down to about 30 gallons to treat medicines. I think if I was to go out and get a new tank, you know, to replace my 10-gallon that has all the scratches, then the 10-gallon that has scratches would become a quarantine and, you know, probably eventually get set up again because it's inevitable. I ordered the triple treatment, the General Cure erythromycin, ICX. I bought the giant bottle, so I probably have a lifetime supply of them unless I get like a giant tank. Just because I don't bring that much fish in anymore. But I have the meds, so if I want to treat the 75, like I do remember, like I used to, one of my favorite antibiotics was, what was it called? It started with an F, but I don't think it's like flubendazole. It might have been flubendazole. I don't know, but I used it all the time. But it was from Seachem, and it came in this little tiny thing, and it would do one treatment for 10 gallons. So like if I needed for the 75, I had to order like 8 of them. And there are things where like if you start noticing a bacterial issue, you want to treat right away. So you had to have them on file. It was a pain. So the erythromycin is so much nicer because you just get a bigger container of it, and then you don't have to, like, I have it if I need it. I mean, even, you know, if it gets expired, I could just probably dose it twice as strong. Okay, bye Priscilla. Probably, didn't I say this like an hour ago? I should probably get going soon too. But I'm talking to my friends. Well, you'll just have to let us know what you decide to get, Dink. I mean, one thing is go to the store too and look at the price and like decide, is it worth, do I like the, you know, if it's one of those things where you're like, well, I like the 5 gallon size and I'd like to do something with that. Like, I mean, my little 5 gallon short, which it's the base of, it's the size of a 10 gallon, but it's only half the height. I love that tank. It cost $60. And it's sort of been a pain in like other things because like finding filters and lights for it, because you can't put the same light that you put on a 10 gallon because it's just like it's too much light. So I've had to like figure other things out for it, but it's a gorgeous tank size. It's like a 55 gallon low boy miniature version. You know, but it's one of those like ADA tanks, so it's really expensive, but it's got the crystal clear glass, and I mean, I can see a visual difference on the color of the water through the glass from the 10 gallon, the 5 gallon, and then the 5 gallon short. So Dink says, it's like this, if I go to the fish store, I'm buying something. I've just found it better if I have a game plan or half of one at least. You know, that's not a bad idea. Like if I go to the fish store and I look at all the fish, but I'm there to buy fish food, I'm less likely to be like impulse buy, where if I just go there to browse without like a game plan in mind, it is harder to walk away with nothing. I mean, you spent that gas to get there and everything, which is I think why I haven't went to any of the fish stores on the north side of town yet, because I haven't like, oh, I need this. I haven't really been in need of anything particular. Like, I mean, in theory, I could go up to the north side of town and look for like microfish, like little tiny like exclamation point Rasboras or something, but I don't think anyone in town has those, to be perfectly honest. But it could be. All right, Gina, have a great day. I just noticed something on my YouTube page that now says rewind instead of YouTube. So I don't know. I mean, it would be interesting to go around town and see if anyone carries little micro, you know, Rasboras or the kind of beta that I want. But yeah, it does help if you have a game plan. Yeah, well, and then like, I mean, if you're planning on doing the fish shop hop / the exotic pet store, which could be very dangerous because I swear I want to get those little flying squirrels. They're so damn cute. Like, I need another pet. Sugar gliders are adorable and they're legal here. And they're just so amazingly cute, but I don't think they'd be maybe the best option for a cat house. Yeah, well, I mean, I have a bird, I have a cat, I have fish. I have a dog, but it lives at my parents' house in California. So, like, do I really need another critter? I really want a bunny rabbit, a house bunny. They're adorable. Lavender could have a friend to play with. Ooh, oh yes, oh. I want poison dart frogs, I want crested geckos, I want a chameleon because they're awesome. All sorts of fun things. Ooh, turtles, yes, turtles. I would like to get the small turtles and they're harder to, I don't know if they're legal here because they weren't in Washington, you couldn't buy them. But I'd like ones that didn't get huge, like the little mini musks or something. But there's a really nice exotic pet store here. There's actually a really cool Facebook group for Las Vegas exotic pet keepers. And some of them are birds and some of them are geckos and cold-blooded reptile things. And one of the mods just is doing a giveaway for 3 different ball pythons. And I'm like, do I enter? I don't know if I want a ball python. I'm sure Corey might give me some, but that's a hell of a drive. That's like a 20-some-odd hour drive to go to the co-op. I mean, I think it would be have to like fly there and then maybe drive back, or I think you can travel with. I was looking this up the last time I flew because I flew to Portland. Well, that's true. I'm closer than you in New York. But like when I flew to Portland and the Wet Spot Tropical Fish is right there, and I was like, well, could I bring some back? And they're literally, you can take fish on the plane, but it sounds like a huge hassle because it's like one of those things where it's like, well, you can't bring water on the plane, right? But like if they're bagged fish, but there's like, it's a certain quantity and like it counts as your carry-on and whatever. So, but you can take them through TSA. Fish in a bag. I'm sure TSA would be like, who is this crazy person? Yeah, you flew to China. Oh my God, last May. Any plane ride from here for this cake? Oh God, when I flew to, I did a direct flight from LAX in Los Angeles to London. And of course, I mean, it wasn't like I had business class or anything. I was in coach all the way in the back of the plane. Oh, that was miserable, being stuck in like this little spot for like so many hours. One way, I mean, part of it is nice when you can get direct flights because like the stopping and unloading and moving and getting on another plane and stopping and unloading, and that is a pain in the ass. But it's, I remember on the way home, I was like, because it was like, of course it was like an overnight flight, and like there were these 2 people next to me, and I'm flying by yourself, so you don't know the people next to you. And on the way, there was these 2 older ladies, and we chatted like most of the way, and it was, it was nice because it was just, chatting with people. But the people next to me on the way back, they just fell asleep. And I'm in the window seat because I didn't know better. Because when I do short domestic flights, I like the window so I can see, but like, okay, you're on a plane, you have to keep the thing closed, and now you're just claustrophobic, and the people next to you are snoring and leaning on you, and you need to go to the bathroom and you can't get out. And so like I ended up hanging out in the back by the bathrooms for several hours because there was a group of people back there chatting, and you could stand up. I was like, I'd rather stand for 8 hours than sit in a chair. Yeah, I would like to travel internationally some more, but I dread the plane fare. I actually spoiled myself a few years ago. I was doing an art residency in Vermont, and I got a flight. It was mostly direct from San Diego to Bellingham, Vermont. No, it wasn't quite direct because there was a hopper plane in there somewhere. It was direct. It was San Diego to DC, and then there was a flight from DC to Birmingham, right? Vermont. And I spoiled myself. I paid for first class because I needed to take baggage with me. And first class, you could take 3 bags. And if you went coach, you had to pay for them. And I wanted the insurance for refundability. And it ended up being like an extra $200 just to fly first class instead of paying for all the extra fees. And oh my God, it was the best experience ever. Then I'm like, oh, I want to go to like New Zealand or Australia or Ireland. And I'm like, but I really don't want to go coach. Like, can I do at least business class where you have like, you can lean back and have leg room? Being tall and big does not bode well for international flights when you're in coach. Well, and like the difference of service too, because when I was in Washington, I flew a lot just to visit my family down here. And you're like, you barely get a cracker and 4 ounces of water if you're lucky in coach. Like I got on the plane and I had water before we took off. I had snacks. They offered me fresh bananas or crackers or chips. Like there were options. You got your meal. You didn't have to pay an extra $8 for it. You know, and when you're on a flight that's 4+ hours long, you're gonna need food. Yeah, and then like if they're international, they fold down to beds, which is really nice. So you can actually possibly sleep on them. So I'm just like, well, one day, 21 hours on a plane. Oh, that sounds so terrible. I hope China was worth it. I think I'd get somewhere, like if I had to be on a plane for that long, and I'm just not going home. Especially if I like end up in New Zealand, I'm like, I'm just staying here. Screw the US, I'll stay in New Zealand. Okay, good. Well, at least it wasn't like, oh, and the trip sucked too. Yeah, you didn't want to leave because of the plane either. Yep, yeah, I'm telling you, I think that's how I'd feel. Because like I flew directly from LAX to London, but then I had a jumper then to Rome, and from Rome to Sicily, which was my final destination. And there's just no direct flights into Sicily. But I fell asleep in the London airport, like standing up because I was so tired. So you had a tour guide during the day to show you around, and then the nights had free reign. Yeah, that's what I did in Sicily. I had one of those tours, and it was really nice. And most of the time, I had enough time at places. Like, it would have been nice, like we went up to Mount Etna, which is the active volcano, but we weren't there long enough to do the tram ride up, like the aerial tram up to the top where you could overview the lava, which is kind of a bummer. Like, you drove us all the way up to the top of this mountain so we can shop at a gift shop, and then you're turning us around and heading back. Like, schedule enough time for us to do the activity. But most of the time we had enough time to actually, like when we went to one of the Colosseums, like we had enough time to explore. And they'd build in free time during the day if we were at like museums or monuments. Like they'd have the little tour guided part, and then we'd have, okay, meet back at the bus in an hour and a half. Oh, that's even nicer. So you had a private tour. I mean, I thought it was nice because I was traveling by myself. The group tour was nice because, you know, I was with other people, and traveling as a single female in Italy isn't necessarily the safest thing ever. Although I did spend a couple extra days in Catania by myself, which ended up being really sick, so I didn't leave the hotel much except for just some ambling about. But the things I had on my agenda to do, I was too busy barfing in the very, very tiny hotel bathroom. But it was still a really amazing tour, and I'd love to go back to Italy or just somewhere else in the country. But I love going around the country too. So, you know, I went the spring break before last. A friend of mine, she grew up and her parents live in Montana, and her dad's in Wyoming. So we went to stay at her mom's, but since she'd spent many years there, she knew all the best places to go to take pictures. So I got like that private tour in Wyoming, where like if I'd went and I'd scheduled a planned trip to there, I probably would have missed a lot of these really cool places we went, because I wouldn't have known about this like back drive through the canyon, or if you go up this this path over on this hill, you know, because it's just like you live somewhere long enough, you know, you find all the really cool little spots. So that's what's really nice about those personal tours, is hopefully the guides know the really cool spots to go. And if you're going somewhere, obviously you can stay there as long as you want. You know, it's not like they're going to be like, well, if we don't hurry, the rest of us can't get to the next thing. You can say like, oh, I want to stay, you know, if you went to the Great Wall, like, you know, you could spend all day there, or you could spend an hour depending on what you wanted to do. All right, so it's 1:30. I've been on for a couple hours here, and I got stuff to do. I have got to go buy groceries because I finally got my paycheck, so I can make myself some lunch. So I'm going to say farewell all. It was a really fun chat today, and I will catch up with you next week, and we will discuss holiday live stream schedule. Phil is gonna go paint, and I will see you all later. Just gotta figure out which button to push. All right, bye.